Thank you. Welcome to this public meeting of the Princeton Board of Education. The board is an elected, unpaid group of 10 citizens who set policy and make decisions on educational, financial, and personnel matters for the Princeton Public Schools on behalf of all residents. We're always pleased when members of the community attend our meetings. The board and the school district operate under applicable New Jersey laws and under regulations of the New Jersey State Board of Education. Each meeting includes an opportunity for those attending to comment on items on the published agenda or other matters of interest to them. The board reserves the right to limit the time allotted to public participation. Law limits discussion of individual personnel and confidential matters. We hope our meetings provide useful opportunities for communication between the board and the community. Thank you for attending.
As required under the Open Public Meeting Act, NJSA 1046 et sequentia, adequate notice was given for calling this meeting. It was authorized by the Board of Education and forwarded to the Municipal Clerk, Princeton Packet, and the Trenton Times on January 6, 2024. It was also distributed to the schools and others on the standard distribution list. The board reserves the right to enter into executive session during all meetings of the Board of Education. Board Policy 168, recording devices, requires that we inform those attending this meeting that the proceedings are being recorded. This meeting is being live streamed. The representative of the sending district is authorized to vote on such matters that affect sending district students or affect the governance of the Princeton Public Schools, as more specifically designated in NJSA 18A 38.8.1. Sending district votes pertaining to personnel actions refer to high school, central administrative, and district-wide staff only. Votes otherwise are considered abstentions. In the event this statute is amended, the law shall take precedence over this bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. Bolden. Would you please call the roll?
Sure. Daphne Kendall,
Here.
Betsy Baglio,
Here.
Beth Barron,
Here.
Adam Bierman,
Present.
Debbie Bronfeld,
Here.
Mara Franceschi,
Here.
Eleanor Hubbard,
Here.
Susan Cantor,
Here.
Brian McDonald,
Present.
Bob Christopher.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Bolden. Can I get a motion for the adoption of the minutes for August 27th? Mara, second. Debbie?
Daphne Kendall,
Yes.
Betsy Baglio,
Yes.
Beth Barron,
Yes.
Adam Bierman,
Yes.
Debbie Bronfeld,
Yes.
Mara Franceschi,
Yes.
Eleanor Hubbard,
Yes.
Susan Cantor,
Yes.
Brian McDonald,
Abstain.
Rob Christopher.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Bolden. Brian, you missed the shortest meeting we ever had. Can I get,
I watched.
Did you? I mean, didn't take up much time. Oh, really? Hope you didn't pay extra for that. Can I get a motion for the adoption of the minutes for September 11th? Rob, second. Debbie?
Daphne Kendall,
Yes.
Betsy Baglio,
Yes.
Beth Barron,
Abstain.
Adam Bierman,
Yes.
Debbie Bronfeld,
Yes.
Mara Franceschi,
Yes.
Eleanor Hubbard,
Yes.
Susan Cantor,
Yes.
Brian McDonald,
Abstain.
Rob Christopher.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bolden. So welcome everyone to this meeting. We have a very packed meeting tonight, so we'll just get to the agenda. The first thing up tonight is our J-PALS mentoring program. We have Johnson Park Principal Chris Sheridan and Johnson Park Counselor Kristen Whitmore to present on that. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for the invitation.
We love to hear about kids, so
Oh, good.
that's why we're here.
We'll hear about some kids this evening.
Great.
So just have a few words before introducing our school counselor and our representative from the university for a great program that we have in JP called the Tiger Pals. So we have J Pals is one thing, and the Tiger Pals is an additional support that we have in our school. So good evening, and thank you, Dr. Foster, Dr. Tu, President Kendall, members of the board, community members present here today, for allowing us a few words to say about Johnson Park. My name is Christopher Sheridan. I'm the new principal over at Johnson Park, and I'm really excited about my new role. When I was first hired and began to meet teachers and families at JP, it was almost like I was told a little secret that how great JP was, how it's such a special place and filled with special people. And I don't know if it's something that's in the air, something that's in the water, or the lack of cell service up there, but it really is absolutely true that it's a special place filled with special people. And there's countless responsibilities working in a school, running a building, being a teacher, an administrator, the staff and families that are connected with our schools. but we have to pause to recognize these special moments when they come to us, that when our efforts of collaboration have borne incredible opportunities for student growth and wellness. The person I'm about to introduce this evening is Miss Kristen Whitmore, and she's our school counselor. For those of you that are unaware, the role of the school counselor has evolved into a mosaic of responsibilities. In this first quarter of a century into the 21st century, the school counselor is a primary contact in the development of a student's social emotional wellness and an active support person for teachers and families. Miss Whitmore spends her days with lunch bunches, in whole group with small group lessons, conflict resolutions, relationship mediation, and guidance on how to make a friend and be a friend. And sometimes that's just with the adults. But in all seriousness, Miss Whitmore is an invaluable resource for our families, the JP community, our students, and our families. Last year at JP, with the former principal, Dr. Ciso Stentz, Miss Whitmore and a handful of teachers, numerous social and emotional initiatives were initiated and furthered. Our school-based mentorship between staff and students, which is JPALS, was reinstated. And in addition to this, JPALS, Miss Whitmore saw an opportunity to work with the university. So beginning last year, which was Miss Whitmore's first year at JP, she worked with the university to partner with their student athletes so they could partner with some of our students at JP to foster deeper connection where they could have a mentor in the university. And that's how the Tiger Pals was born. We're proud of the social emotional supports that we're developing in JP. And today, Ms. Whitmore will tell you a little bit about the work that she's been doing with the university to foster a greater sense and these opportunities for growth. So I introduce to you, Ms. Whitmore.
Thanks, Chris, for that really beautiful introduction. Thanks, everybody, for giving me time this evening. I will be very brief, but I'm really excited to share with you this program called Tiger Pals. I'm actually going to welcome up my colleague at the university who's been a tremendous asset in bringing this program to life. So this program was brought about by a need that we started to realize in our school community. Our kiddos need mentorship, okay? We know the power of mentorship. We know how much those adult role models matter to our kids. So we have currently the Reading with the Tigers program, which is not a new program. It's been in Princeton for many years. Many of your children have probably went through this program. It's where university athletes come into our elementary schools and spend some time reading with our kiddos. I'm not sure who has more of an enjoyable experience, the athletes or the kids, because the kids just look up to these heroes and the athletes kind of become kids again. So it branched from this Reading with the Tigers program. So that kind of was the first piece of inspiration here, seeing how much our kiddos looked up to these athletes. And then again, noticing this need for mentorship, right? As teachers, as the adults in the building, we believe that we can be positive mentors for our students, but getting somebody else, right? Getting somebody that's not at home with them, getting somebody that's larger than life being. That's where this project came to be. So with the blessing of Dr. S last year, I kind of fired off a bunch of emails to the university, to anybody that would answer me and try to make something happen. And I, after a lot of emails back and forth, got in contact with Melissa, and she was saying that the university students have been asking for mentorship opportunities. So it just seemed perfect. This all kind of fell into our inbox. We know that research shows us a list of benefits that come from students who have an adult mentor: better attendance, better grades, higher test scores, a sense of belonging, all the good stuff, the stuff that's why we're here. And the purpose, again, is to provide that positive role model for students that could benefit from this. So we launched last year in the spring. We had 12 JP students that we identified as potential recipients of this partnership. And the university had 25 student athletes that expressed interest. And they're grouped by teams, so they're in pods. So we have one of our kiddos is paired with like 2 or 3 athletes. It also helps with scheduling. Next slide, please. So you'll see photos along the way. Awesome. So well, really, and another reason why we realized we needed a program like this is to support our tiered systems of support, right? We talk about that a lot on the academic side, right? Our tier 1 is our good teaching practice, right? The resources that we have as a tier 1. Then we have our tier 2. We have our AIS, which is our basic skills program. Then we have high impact tutoring. It always gets a little gray when we come to the SEL component, because feelings and emotions, you don't get a score for that, right? So in looking at what we can do to support our kiddos, here are some of those tiered resources of support. Starting with the tier 3, it's our counseling lessons, it's our reading with the tigers, it's our lunch bunches. These are available to every student. Then as we move up, we have our small counseling groups and our J-PALS program that was resurrected last year with in-house staff mentors. And now we have something at our tier 3, which is this Tiger Pals resource for us. So this year, we've identified 23 students in grades 2 through 6. So we have a partnership now with the middle school because some of our 5th graders are now moving on. We have 45 university athletes that express interest in this program from 13 athletic programs. It's amazing. We had a meeting on Sunday night to pull all the athletes together, and they are beyond excited. Like, can we come in tomorrow? They're really excited. Again, having that positive role model, practicing social skills, academics. These kids are in this program because there's a great need there, and we can match it with this program. You'll see these photos. These are from our kickoff event. So what do we hope to go with this program? Growing our supports in all tiers. That's something we're always looking to do. How can we keep supporting our kiddos? We would love to expand this to the other elementary schools. I've already gotten in the ear of my counseling colleagues, and they are fully on board with this. So hopefully we'll have the whole university all to us. And then identifying more students as these needs persist, because we have this beautiful partnership. The university's in our backyard. And this was from our kickoff event. We had a big celebration. We did a spirit tunnel for the kids. They ate pizza, cupcakes. They had so much fun. And we had kiddos crying, when their pal left because they didn't want them to go. We had one little girl who said, I think I actually can go to college. I can do this. And it was incredible. You got goosebumps. It was, in all my years of education, that's probably one of the, if not the highlight. It was an amazing day. And another little kiddo who was like, do you know that they study very specific things in college? And I can talk only about this. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And these pictures, this was such a great day. Slide, please. And that was all of us together out at the JP Pavilion. So thank you all for your time today. We really appreciate it. And thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it, and we appreciate all the things you're doing for kids. And that sounds like a lot of fun. The board could use some mentorship. So, just saying, we could use any kind of pal, but a J pal would be good. Mentors. So next up, Betsy is going to be here in a minute to talk about the superintendent search update. And so, as we said at every meeting from now until the next superintendent is chosen, we're going to provide updates. And even if there aren't any, we're going to let you know that. But no one has been working harder on organizing the community to make sure that we get everyone's input than Betsy.
Oh, thank you. Well,
Do you have a thing?
well, thanks to Mr. Bolden, we're going to take you through in real time our new webpage for the search to show the community how they might access information. So I think let's just jump in and see what's happening here on the website. There's a button on the front page for the superintendent search. And if we click on that, which is live, thanks to Krista Gallion, which we really appreciate, Krista. This will be updated along the way to share with our community. And we're hoping that potential candidates are also looking at this website as well. School leadership was hired at our last special meeting to be our search consultants. They've been amazing. We're off and running. I just want to show the community, if you scroll down, there are 2 ways, and it launches now, to participate. You can take a survey by clicking on that link, or I think the graphic below. Oh, either one. That's amazing. So there's a survey. We want you all to fill it out. Students, parents, community members, staff, former parents in the district, anyone who's interested in giving us some feedback. And then if you take us back, and if you scroll down, Mr. Bolden, it's also in Spanish. So for our Spanish speaking families, we'd like your input as well. If you click to there we go. Okay. So that's up. And then if we can go back, oops. Don't go to the board meetings. So right to the right, that graphic to the right, this will allow you to sign up for forums. So we're looking for everyone in the community who's interested in participating in forums. And if you scroll down, keep scrolling. that tells you, rather than me reading every single forum, we have multiple forums for parents, community members, staff, and next Wednesday at break for students. We hope that you'll tell the high school students. We'll give you the time for that. But next Wednesday at break, we'll be talking to high school students as well. Well, some kind of food. We don't know yet what the food is, but maybe our board reps can help us figure out what food is appropriate. So if you're not able to attend, these meetings are next week, Monday through Wednesday. If you can't attend the forum that has been designated for you, you can attend any of them. We have one forum for elementary staff, one at the middle school for middle school staff, one at the high school for high school staff, one here for Valley Road staff. But again, if it's better for you to attend another one, we welcome you. We have a virtual parent and community forum. We have a parent forum in person and a community forum in person as well. So our consultants will be busy next week, and that's the point. We want to hear from our community, and we really do hope everyone takes part in this effort. Okay, let me just look through my notes. Thank you very much, Mr. Bolden, for that sort of last minute sharing of our website. So I think the only other thing I want to share is that Dr. Brooks and Ms. Bader, who are probably watching this evening, so hello to them. They'll attend our October 16th special meeting that we have just scheduled, and they'll be presenting to our community. They'll be on Zoom, we'll be in person, and they'll be presenting the specifications that Princeton, our collective community, has developed for what we're looking for in a superintendent. And we'll also be approving the job description at that time. So the search will officially launch for interested candidates on October 17th, although we know they've already been hard at work. So that's the update for this evening. I'll continue to update the public at every meeting. And please tell everyone you know to fill out the survey and attend one of our our forums. And actually, there's one other thing. We are having a number of forums with other smaller groups with other people within the community, and that's happening next week as well.
Such as like the special education parents.
Correct.
And they're having their own meeting because they might bring up confidential things that they don't want shared with the wider community. All right, well, thank you, Betsy. It's very exciting. Thank you to Krista. Thank you to Matt for navigating the webpage. We appreciate it.
It was very challenging.
Matt's setting up meetings. Dr. Foster's
yeah.
helping us schedule.
Yep. And, for paying the bills and for making sure that we have food so the students come and share their feedback
Participate.
with us.
Yes, but they have to wait for the food, right? Because otherwise they take the food and leave something.
Only on the way out.
Matt,
Remember, is that bagels for pizza?
yeah. So Matt's on to how kids work. So
Yes.
please work with us. We want to get student feedback. Oh, and why don't I take this moment to introduce our new board members? We have Maya and Nikolai. And if you want to introduce yourself, welcome. They were elected by their peers at the high school. They're both seniors. And why don't you take a minute to tell us about yourselves?
Hi, I'm Maya. Hello.
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Maya. Like you said, I'm a senior at PHS. A little about me is that I play ice hockey, so I'm captain there, and I'm really into sports. So I do cheer, I do softball, I also do a lot of community service, and I have a dog. I actually live really close by, so if you ever see my dad and my dog running around, you could say hi if you want. He likes jumping, so be a little careful, but he's very friendly, I promise. I also have two siblings, and yeah, that's much it.
Okay, well, welcome, Maya.
Hey, I'm Nikolai. I had a brother who was on this, who served in the position last year, so I'll be cleaning up his mess. But yeah, my whole family, I have a little brother in Riverside, and I went to PMS, and now I'm at Princeton High School. So thank you for making all of this such a wonderful experience.
Aww.
I know we all really love it. Me-wise, I play the banjo. I do that around the country. I'll be in North Carolina tomorrow for some shows.
Is that an excused absence?
Oh God, I hope so.
All right.
Maybe we can. But yeah, oh gosh.
Yeah.
I will be here at school tomorrow.
Great.
I love watchmaking. I intern at Hamilton Jewelers on the weekend in
Wow.
their repair departments. And the school clubs wise, I'm the leaders of the ethics bowl team, Model UN, and mock trial. And all the field trips I know are kind of a hassle for y'all, so thank you, because those are fun. But really looking forward to it. It's gonna be great.
Well, thank you. Welcome again. And we
Thank
look forward to getting your input and feedback as to what's going on at Princeton High School and what we can do better, because there's always things we can do better.
Y'all,
And it's never a hassle to do things for the kids.
thank you.
So students. So we appreciate your being here. Thank you. If ever, this meeting, I don't think will go too long, but if it ever gets too much, you'll have a report at the beginning of the meeting. Feel free. We know how busy you are. Hopefully you're better than my daughter and you've opened up the Common App. Maybe not. But we know that you have a lot of other things going on. So thank you for joining us. All right. And now moving on to the superintendent, Dr. Foster.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. So we're going to continue to celebrate. And the first thing is I'm just going to highlight the district and school goals for the 24-25 school year. And they align beautifully with the data that you will see following. We know that what we focus on matters, and that breeds success. And so we're really proud of these district goals. Wait. So you can move to the next slide if you want. You'll have to guess. Guess what they are. Yeah, exactly. Oh, I can actually do them off the top of my head, but I want to see if we the visual. There we go. Okay. All right. So as we continue to focus on kindness this year, we are committed to creating safe and inclusive spaces for learning. And as I said, I've been saying before, kindness is sometimes underestimated. And kindness really is a path to hold each other accountable to be our best selves. And that is both our social emotional selves as well as our academic selves. And obviously all of the priorities really focus on our mission for our students to live lives of joy and purpose. Okay, and I don't know if you recognize this photo, but this is the new track at Riverside, very popular, as you can see. We are currently in our second year of the 5-year strategic plan. As a reminder, the committee of stakeholders developed 4 overarching district priorities that we will continue to address each year in a specific way. So we base them on academic records, reports, attendance, discipline records, the wellness survey, and that's where we design specific yearly goals to increase student engagement and success. So those are the first 2 priorities. And then on the next page are priorities 3 and 4. So I'm going to highlight just a few things for each of them, and then you will take a look at our data. Okay. So we'll focus on collective priority 1, measure of student progress. So we are proud that we are a pre-K to 12 district, and we start with our earliest learners. This year, we have expanded our preschool, and they're really focused on family engagement and planning meetings with early childhood and special education to support a year-long rollout of alignment of both programs. So teachers will participate in professional development across the school year, align with teacher professional development goals, and then create and revise individual education plan goals to match the pre-K language for the GOLD assessment, which is the preschool assessment. Elementary will be focused on math, and they'll be using the Linkit data. Other additions to support and elevate that will be math workshops, reviewing goals with building staff members, check-ins throughout the year during grade level meetings and faculty meetings, math cohorts with instructional coaches, math pop-up PD with our instructional coaches, and the use of exemplars, the versatiles, which are the manipulatives, and Ready Math as extension resources. So measure of student progress for wellness, sense of belonging. So one of the things at pre-K is they really want to focus on bringing the families into the district. So there'll be a lot of facilitation and marketing of family events throughout the year and working with Princeton Early Childhood Advisory Council. And then for the elementary schools wellness, they're going to meet with school counselors, have those wonderful programs like JPALs, create mentorships both in and out of district, do welcome classroom visits with counselors. And I happened to be in Riverside the other day and witnessed one of those visits with the counselors. It was fantastic. They'll provide social emotional learning lessons, student inventory relationships, and again, developing and establishing and strengthening their mentorship programs. Okay. And then Princeton Middle School. One of the things that they noticed is just to improve the perception that there is a trusted adult in the building. And that was really the data that stood out for the middle school. So they're working with Trinidad Rodriguez to help with a liaison to connect with students. We heard about Wingman last year. They're instituting that this year, repurposing school programming. And the theme is schools can't do it alone. They're making sure that they have celebrations throughout the year, making sure students see themselves in school. And the quote is, if you can't see it, you can't be it. So they really want to make sure that they emphasize that. Specific connectivity sessions for family community night, a respect summit in November and December. And then they're really strengthening those house meetings with the students to develop solid relationships with adults. Certainly multi-tiered systems of support. And they've also instituted data teams to help track and support students. And then at the high school, they're going to really focus on dialogue and collaboration. So organized training workshops centered on difficult dialogues, facilitate interactions between master teachers and novice teachers to observe specific pedagogical strategies, fostering mentorship and shared learning, and also construct instructional rounds. And if you've heard about that, that's usually what doctors do, maybe in a hospital, where they have a group of professionals going around together and identifying different common patterns and themes and then discussing it afterwards. Encourage cross-disciplinary classroom visits and using critical friend protocol to encourage collaborative feedback. Okay, then we'll focus on the next, which are the Princeton Middle School academics. They're going to work closely. Lauren Samara has been busy in her new role as MTS as supervisor. They're going to identify strategies to use Title I funding to augment the work, infuse data teams at Princeton Middle School, and then create that core team with the principal, assistant principal, and supervisors. They're also going to become more prolific in their use of the Linkit data to identify entrance and exit criteria for the beginning of the year. And you'll see some data that uses that. We talk about that in the next coming up slides. Linkit assessments were are going to be piloted in the 6th grade. They're working on the new math sequence, and Dr. Tu has some good news to share about that success. And again, using Linkit for mid-year mark to monitor and predict and become proactive to help support students. And then the last is the high school. I'm really running through these quickly. Attendance is, they noticed that they really want to improve attendance, and we had Ms. Burge come to the Equity Committee to specifically talk about some of that data that she's using. The goal is 10% improvement measured by meeting attendance. They're doing this proactively by figuring out ways to help kids want to be in school. So again, it's creating relationships, creating engaging classrooms, more communication with parents, email attendance notification. She's hoping the new bell schedule will support that as well. And then also, she did talk about that Tier 2 services, which connects students with counselor, nurse, and assistant principal so that they have some mentorship and follow-up. And I think, did I get it? And then the programming, the goal also is to expand Saturday Academy this year to include English language arts, as well as other enrichment opportunities for students outside regular school hours. And this all leads again to the focus. And if you remember, Dr. Tu talked about, which is what happens after. It's the follow-up after graduation, post-graduation, and who we want our children to be. And we'll be focusing on portrait of graduate skill sets throughout the pre-K to 12 level. And that's just a really quick snapshot. We will give you an update once we have some data to share probably midwinter to show how we are working towards these particular goals this year. But it leads beautifully into our next presentation, which is with John McMichael and Naparna Shah, who are going to share the matriculation report, graduation report. Thank you.
Great.
So I want to start by saying I have the absolute greatest job in the world because I get to spend my days talking to students that are absolutely amazing and talented on so many arenas, from music to academics to performance to theater to so many different things. And I learn from these students each and every day. A few of them are here, Maya and Nikolai. I see Rika in the audience. So it's really just a privilege to be in this role and be able to work with these students every day. And that directly translates into what our college matriculation looks like. The mission of our college counseling program is really, we're committed to providing comprehensive preparation, informed decision-making, and really ongoing support for every student that is at Princeton High School. And our aim is to guide students through the complex college search process and really help them find their post-secondary pathways that align with their talents and ambitions. So from a summary level, I think that's the next slide. Last year, in the class of 2024, we had 354 graduates at Princeton High School, and we had an overall graduation rate of 96%, where 92% of our students went to a four-year college and 4% went to a two-year college. We have graduates that were accepted to 313 different colleges across the country and across the world. We have 144 institutions where our students are attending college or a postgraduate institution, and those students are enrolled across 31 states and 7 countries. In terms of our most frequently attended colleges, Rutgers University, along with Cornell University, both were our most attended colleges this year. We had 16 students attending both of those colleges, and not far behind were Princeton University and Mercer County Community College. So a pretty widespread range of different types of colleges our students are getting accepted to and attending. And in terms of the most frequently applied to college, again, Rutgers is right up there as one of our most frequently applied to college, followed by some colleges in the Northeast: Cornell University, Princeton University, Mercer County Community College, Northeastern.
Can I ask you a quick question? Sorry to interrupt, but I've heard this before. And that's why we want you here to present it to the community. But on the screen with Rutgers and Cornell as the top matriculated, more children were accepted, right? So I think for next year, we're going to show where children are also accepted, but this is really where they're going.
Exactly. We did have more students actually accepted, but this is just showing the matriculation of those students.
Because you're doing a fabulous job, so we want to make sure the community knows about it.
The kids are doing a fabulous job. I'm a perfect.
Well, but they need guidance. They need guidance. They don't want to listen to their parents. I think I mentioned that to you, and you really provide a great, but I don't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you so much. This is our application data across the 7 different types of application plans: regular decision, early decision 1, early decision 2, early action 2, restrictive early action, Enrolling, overall, if you look at that data, we had 880 applications with a 75% acceptance rate. Our most successful applications were in the early action round, where we had a 97% acceptance rate in early action, and through early admission, we had an 82% acceptance rate. So where in the world are our PHS graduates? Well, they are in countries like Canada, France, Italy, and Ireland, and domestically in so many states, like I mentioned, 31 out of the 50 states across the United States. And on that page, if you click on the matriculation, there's a link below that says for a detailed report. It actually shows by state where our students, what colleges they actually attended. And last but not least, just in terms of the breakdown of the private institutions versus the not-for-profit institutions, the private not-for-profit institutions receive the highest number of applications and enrollments, followed by public institutions. So we have amazing, amazing kids that go on to do amazing things. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. We appreciate your coming, and we do appreciate, all you do for kids, right? That's why we're all here. So you and Mr. McMichael in particular, I'm sorry you didn't bring Dr. Dine in. It was quite an amusing meeting, but we thank her as well. That presentation was part
Is
of.
it on the counseling website by any chance?
It's also attached to our board meeting.
It is in the
for
board
public.
meeting. Yeah.
Yep.
But maybe we could
I
pop
have,
that on.
I have to put the tech ticket in.
Following the rules. I love it.
Oh,
Thank
And
you.
that reminds me, the profile that Naparna and I
Oh,
worked very
yes.
closely on is attached to the board agenda. That is definitely on our website. We spent quite a bit of time. If you have ever seen the one from prior years, it just needed some refreshing. And we spent a lot of time. We used resources from the Making Caring Common project, which is affiliated with Harvard University. They actually did a webinar that we both registered and attended in our respective offices on Zoom. There it is. And Naparna, having built up so many connections in the college admissions world, actually put some feelers out to college admissions reps and said, hey, can you take a look at this? Tell me what you think. Do you have suggestions for us? And when you get no feedback, I think that's a good sign that you're on the right track. So I don't know if the old one exists anywhere. It doesn't look anything like this. And it really helps the college admissions folks put Princeton high school students in the context of Princeton high school. They can't compare a kid from Princeton from a kid from West Windsor from a kid from Germany, right? So they look at you and what you took advantage of during your time in your 4 years here. This gives them way more context than they had in prior years.
That's awesome.
So it's something we're kind of proud of. And I will have to say, because it's not in any report we can give you, she tried to brush it off. I'm not going to let her. She is fabulous.
Yes, yes.
I think on the SAC meeting, somebody mentioned that she seems to know every single kid by name.
Well, I'll repeat it. What I said was I was at the 101 Fund, and they're not as experienced as presenters, and so they were introducing the kids and the scholarships, and they didn't say where they were going to school. And I don't have my attention span is very limited, so I was like, where are they going to school? And Naparna and Andrea, they knew every kid where they were going, and it was very impressive. And these are some of the kids that don't have a lot of people looking out for them. So I think it's and where the schools they were going. And I also said I've been going to that 101 meeting for years now, and this was the most impressive list of schools that the kids were going to. I mean, I think there were a few Ivy League schools in there, and some very even more competitive schools. So really, it's a testament to that's why we're all here. We're here for the kids, and you're working with all the kids, but you pay special attention to the kids that need you more, and we're grateful for that. Yeah. So was that good, John? Did I? Okay.
She deserves every ounce of credit. I have the best job in the world because I get to watch her work.
Yeah.
I'm Kristen Whitmore from JP, the middle school team. I was over there today. So the school counselors in this district.
Yeah, and Naparna, I'm going to see if I can make you cry here, but I won't, like I did in the SAC meeting. But you said that you have 2 children, but you have 16.
1,600 at school, and I really deeply love each and every one of them. Yeah. They are my children.
All right, thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah. Now we are going to go to your testing report. Yeah.
Now we're going to go to the testing report.
Yeah.
So I'll introduce Dr. Kim too, and then I guess you'll introduce your team.
I'll call them up as
Okay.
that way you guys can stay comfortable hiding in the back of the room. I see.
Oh, no hiding.
Yeah.
No hiding.
No hiding. This
No,
is
no, no.
great news to share.
Yep.
Mr. McMichael's up first, but I want to just kind of preface this presentation. It is a long presentation, so thank you for your time and your patience, but it's really good news. And it's an effort of the collaborative work that's being done by the Board of Education, the administrators, the staff, the students, and the family. I really feel as we're finally emerging out of this COVID fog and really putting some helpful systems into place. And it's a lot to celebrate here. We still have a lot of work to do, but it's a lot to celebrate. So just kudos to the entire team and system for putting kids first and making sure they're getting what they need, you know, academically and social emotionally. So if you can change the slide, Mr. Bolden. So tonight, our SAT and ACT scores were just sort of being populated this week. It's more good news, but they weren't ready yet for prime time. There were still a couple more reports that we needed. So that will come in due time. But we wanted to talk about the AP scores, our DLM, which is our dynamic learning map scores, which is our alternative assessment for students in special education. And then finally, our NJ, SLA, ELA math and science scores. So you should have, parents, received an email today with a link to your child's testing report if they took the assessment. Not all grades take the assessment. We'll get into that. And kind of how they did and, you know, next steps. So Mr. McMichael is up first for AP scores. I forget always the tally, but what did we have? Almost 1,700 AP assessments last year.
1699.
So kudos to him and Mr. Rothschild, who was our testing coordinator last year, because it really is a behemoth task to undertake, and to see our students' results out of it is amazing. So I will let him take the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Tu. Yeah, May was between all the students, May 1st as the college deadline, right? So May was a great month in the counseling office at the high school, although it was chaotic. It's actually probably easier to tell you there are only 6 AP exams that we didn't offer last year. So 34 up there. Obviously, we don't run all of those classes, but we do allow any currently enrolled Princeton high school student to say, hey, I want to take the AP psychology exam, and we will be happy to allow them to do so, and we will accommodate that. So that is quite a list up there. I would put it up against any other high school in the country. So the next slide does tell you 1699 over there, all the way on the right. And to go back to Dr. Tu's point, we are beyond pre-pandemic levels in almost every metric, and we'll go over that quickly.
I mean, can we just point something out? 92% of our kids scored a 3 or above. I mean, that's amazing.
If you add up the 12, 36, and 44. And for anyone not as familiar with the AP program, that's pretty much going to guarantee you college credit at most institutions. So moving on, the College Board offers a recognition program called the AP Scholar Program. And there's different categories with all different breakdowns. But, you know, just to have a few students in any of these is pretty impressive, and to see literally hundreds be recognized by the college program for their, look at those averages at the bottom. You know, just super impressive. Like Mrs. Shaw was saying, we work and we get to see some of the best students every single day. On the next slide, so I don't have it up there, but I took a look. So pre-pandemic, so 2019, the 2020 AP exams, for anybody that even wants to bother thinking, they were 45 minutes and kind of just thrown together at the last minute. Listen, we all were kind of thrown off by the pandemic, right? Just a little bit. So the College Board threw these 45-minute exams out there that kids took from their bedrooms and their houses. But so let's go back to 2019. The numbers, if you just go down the column, 612, 1478, 569, and a percentage, a 92.97 at the bottom. So if you go all the way over to the right now to 2024, you will see we have exceeded all of those metrics. And I have to apologize. I apparently can't copy and paste. This came right from a College Board report. It just wasn't easy to put into a PowerPoint, so I just copied and pasted the numbers. The bottom right number, so the number of total AP students with scores of 3 or higher, it's actually 95.03, not 92.03. So that's on me. I apologize for that error. But if you look at that number, that is the highest since at least 2019, since before 2019. If you really want to get into the nuts and bolts, we could provide, you know, the scores that were broken down by exam, but that's more useful information for the teachers and supervisors just to see where we might need to make improvements. But some overall goals up on the screen at the moment: enhancing accessibility, promoting more students. I mean, if you look at the data, we're doing that, right? Because everything's going up. The number of kids taking AP classes and exams is going up. The scores are going up. So everything is trending in the right direction. I think we're all anxious to put the pandemic as far behind us as possible. And that's certainly happening with our AP program. So before I step away to Mrs. Christofoli, I actually have to say thank you and congratulations to her, as tonight is a special night for her. And she has been a mentor to me in the year I've been here. And also thank you to all of you for the kudos, from Ms. Whitmore to Mrs. Shaw. And I heard Dr. Foster and the goals and the counseling, the support for the counseling program and the work that the counselors do here. You know, it's very much appreciated from the board on and from the administration. So thank you very much. And I will now turn it over to Ms. Christopher.
Thank you, Mr. McMichael.
Hi, so we got to hear about the great scores our students are achieving, and you're going to hear a lot about our NJSLA scores. So just so we're clear, our special education students, for the most part, take NJSLA. But we do have a subsection of our students who do have more learning challenges, who learn the standards, but they learn the essential elements of the standard. So we really drill down into them. So taking the NJSLA would not be an appropriate way to assess them. So the state uses a dynamic learning maps to do the assessment for those students. And it is computer-based, and it's based on their ability to make progress through the assessment. So if you can go to the... So this is just a little summary of kind of what I said about the essential elements. If you could go to the next one. So it's taken in a lot of the same grade levels, but if you notice for high school, it's only in grade 11. So, which makes it challenging because we do like to use the scores and drill into the scores and look at how our students learned, how our students achieve, but then also looking at our instruction. We use multiple sources of data to determine how our students are progressing through their program. So it's achievement on IEP goals, data teachers collect, and also performance on the DLM. All right, and it's kind of the same: emerging, approaching the target, at target, and advanced. So that's how the scores are presented. So this is a compilation of our scores this year. We did not break it into grade levels because some grade levels only have one student or two students. But what we did with the supervisors and I sat down and we looked at last year's scores compared to this year's scores, and we really saw some really positive trends. In English language arts, last year we had 45% of our students in emerging. Now they're progressing up through approaching target, at target, and advanced. So we're really happy to see those scores. Math is about the same as last year, but last year in science, we had a 100% of our students at emerging, and now you can see the trend has really moved forward. So drilling into the test results, looking at the essential elements, not that they're the same every year during the testing, but we kind of can look at trends. It's easier to see those trends at the elementary level where we have more students taking the assessment, and in the middle school level. If you can go to the next one. So this is kind of small print up there, but you can kind of get a sense that we looked at the scores. We looked at our areas of strength for this year, and we looked at areas of growth. And what I wanted to point out when I compared last year with this year, some of the areas that we had as areas of growth last year that we sat down with the teachers, we looked at their instruction and we added components to their instruction, such as use of writing to communicate is now an area of strength. Another area that's at the elementary level, in the middle school, determine critical elements from text is now a strength, where last year was an area of growth, and also representing and interpreting text is an area of strength, where last year was an area of growth. So we're really happy to see that all of that hard work that our teachers put in analyzing the test results is paying out in how students are doing in follow-up assessments. Okay, and so we are going to continue that work. We're going to continue to analyze the areas of strength, but also growth. They are used for instruction. They're used to develop IEP goals, and the supervisors are working to incorporate a new program into our programs that will address some of the DLM essential elements. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cristofelli, and congratulations. I appreciate you. Next, I'm going to bring up Dr. Joy Barnes-Johnson, our now K-12 science supervisor, and then Mr. Bolden, if you just don't mind moving to the next slide. So there's a lot of information out there about this assessment. So this is only for grades 5, 8, and 11. And if you follow anything at the DOE level, they're actually talking about taking it off the QSAT process because a lot of people question the validity, I don't know if I say the validity, but the depth of the assessment versus what actually can happen, in general education classrooms in the curriculum.
So for those of us not
Yeah.
following along,
Yeah.
what does that mean?
So they are talking about taking she's so excited about the science. They're thinking about taking it off the QSAC progress monitoring piece, the science scores.
So they're not going to.
It won't have an
evaluate the
impact,
work
on the score for the CNI portion of QSAC.
Well, I hope if they're not going to evaluate the district, the kids don't have to. take the
Well,
test.
and once again, Dr. BJ and I, we really value some of the assessment pieces on it, but how do we say, we have a really low participation rate at the high school. And so a lot of people don't value it and don't take it seriously. And so when we start looking at the high school data and we have such a small subsection of students taking it, it really doesn't help the district either for programming decisions and how we support kids. But I'm going to let, her kind of share some of the data here today. So thank you, Dr. BJ, for being here.
No, thank you. I think it is actually quite interesting that this is a statewide debate about the science test. ELA and math are priorities everywhere all the time. And so science, however, is in service to ELA and math. And that's the bright spot for us to consider a future for how we might use science assessment in general. But you can go to the next slide. So the MJSLA science test is administered at 3 grade benchmarks, 5th grade, 8th grade, and 11th grade. Our data are consistent across our elementary schools, and we are consistently doing better than other school districts in our state. Similar to the other grade reporting categories, you have a percentage below proficient, nearing proficient, at proficient, and advanced proficient. However, because we have such a low participation rate, this doesn't say very much for us because, again, what's really wonderful is when we look at our AP scores. For example, the end of the line is what happens in 11th grade or what happens as students are pursuing college. We're very high performing. And so it gets to be a little tricky. However, I'd like to advance to the next slide. You can see over time that we don't change very much. The percentage differences are relatively small from one year to the next across all grade bands. This is our comparison at 5th grade. You can, from one school to the next, there really is not significant change. You can move to the next slide. What's here, these are racial categories. And this is a little disconcerting. Red, as you might expect, represents the danger zone. And when we look across our most vulnerable populations or populations that we know are actually genius in other ways, it's not being measured in that way. And so that's what we have here. The dark green on the far right represent the level of students or who participated in the program who are seen as advanced proficient. And so you will see just comparatively that those categories are relatively small in comparison. However, the yellow and the medium green, if you will, very little difference between those. And those represent the students who are teetering between approaching proficient and proficient. So there's not a significant difference in those categories either. You can advance to the next slide. So over time, across all grades, here are a different picture for racial categories. Not significant difference in the categories. You see it in each of them how there really is only a few percentage points difference between them. You can advance to the next slide. And similarly, this is the true picture for gender as well. You can advance to the next slide. This is the, ooh, I can't see that.
Oh, sorry. Pre-reduced on the ESL, special ed, gen ed. There we go. Thank you, Mr. Baldwin.
I can see most of it. I was like, wait a minute. So those represent our special ed and general ed populations, our special populations. So you have special ed 504 accommodations, which is actually, when you look at it, it says they're getting the appropriate accommodation, is what that says. Because you see nearing proficient and proficient is actually quite great. Most concerning is our multilingual student population, which underperform. And the question is, where do we go with that? What do we do? And how do we meet the challenge of making sure that all children, regardless of their home language, is ready to be evaluated in appropriate ways? We can go to the next slide. Okay, yep, you can go ahead. This is the same kind of picture. And so where are our strengths? I think we have an overwhelming success rate at the elementary level because students participate in 5th grade. They're still willing to sit, or parents are still willing to allow their children to sit, which is an important thing to recognize because this is tied to numeracy and literacy. So science is in service to that. So most of the questions are actually questions that allow us to understand how students are reading the world and writing the world and analyzing numbers in the world. So it's lovely. But that's also tied to our growth area, making sure that that warm and fuzzy feeling that we capture in 5th grade is one that we can continue in middle school and high school is the goal for science. And so outside of the infrastructural supports that we have for strong science learning in our school community, whether it be PAWS at the middle school or whether it be our garden educators at our elementary school, that we embrace science across the content areas and sort of make sure that math and ELA are actually centered in our science classrooms prominently so that students feel prepared to answer questions however they may come. And so what are we doing? We are working to mine data, put it and link it so that it's accessible, use appropriate tools that will allow teachers and parents to understand how their children are processing scientific and technical information. We are working to reinstitute STEM learning opportunities across the day and the scope of the week for families and for children. And we are working very, very hard to increase PHS educator stakeholder buy-in into science assessments and tools that will allow us to have common assessments. The goal for the department is to actually embed math and English standards in their lesson plans so that making science learning visible is making sure that math and or language is visible across the curriculum. And so finally, I will say that one of our big goals is to audit our curriculum to make sure that there is uniform practice and praxis across all of our buildings and clear alignment between elementary science learning and what we know students can accomplish in the AP curricula that they pursue at the high school level. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. B.
Thank you, Dr. BJ.
Quick question for science? Dr.
I have
BJ, just 1 second.
Hold on.
Oh,
Questions?
yeah, I have a quick question about science. My impression is there's always a little bit of tension in science education between breadth and depth.
Yeah.
And that it, especially in recent years with the next generation science standards, the emphasis has been more on depth and kind of processes,
Yeah.
and less on kind of broad content knowledge.
Yeah.
But the tests, from what I've really briefly seen of them, do seem to assess content knowledge. And it seems like maybe our students' lack of that is holding them back in some way. So how do you approach bridging that kind of tension when I think we both want students to engage in really hands-on learning in the classroom, but we also want them to be able to read scientific texts and to build up that knowledge over time?
Absolutely. So the current shift, which is now almost 10 years old, to embrace the three-dimensional science standards is based in phenomena and practices across all of the disciplines of science. And so that three-dimensional approach to science teaching is one that gets to deeper knowledge. However, the structure of our emphasis on APs is more of a breadth first and then depth that happens at the high school. So for me, making sure that every elementary and middle school child has an experience that allows them to go deeper has been what I want to focus on. And so starting with phenomena, for example, that's a 3D NGSS related idea. The hard part about that is getting people to de-emphasize the test. So it's a little bit of a gap. And the tension is real. So all I can say is giving students more authentic learning experiences where they're doing the science learning and the science communication outside of the classroom has been the way that I've tried to approach that. And ultimately it has a huge effect. We see it at the high school, where the struggle really exists at the middle school, because it's that strange place where we are combating folks setting themselves up for high school so that they can get to accelerated biology, or making sure that they take the math class that they think is going to give them an advantage to get into STEM classes. And it's trying to decouple that. I'm thinking about it a lot. So that is, quite frankly, the struggle. So I think I'll be happy, and I think we'll all be happier when the science test is, NJSLA science test is not the focus point, but instead we can create portfolios, for example, that will allow students to demonstrate a much more holistic understanding of science. We have a meeting scheduled in October with the state science supervisor, and that's one of the things that we are continuously talking about throughout the county and the state as science educators.
Thank you, Dr. BJ.
All right, so now I'm going to welcome up Miss Keisha Smith-Carrington and Ms. Sarah Moore. Thank you guys so much. We're going to be talking about ELA scores. Ms. Smith-Carrington is our supervisor of humanities in grades 6 to 12, and Sarah Moore is our supervisor of elementary education. So Mr. Bolden, if you mind swapping to the next slide. So the NJSLA is for ELA is given in grades 3 through 9. And I also want to reiterate that this is going to be posted on our district website tomorrow, because we will be going kind of quickly through there's a lot of data, there's a lot of information, but this will be posted on our website tomorrow as well. So Mr. Bolden, if you mind swapping it again. So what I really want to highlight, the way Linkit helps us kind of craft the data this year, they've changed how they report it out. And what you want to look at is like the bottom row, far right corner. Basically, what we really want for NJSLA ELA, there's 5 levels in ELA and math, and we want a level 4 or level 5. That means students are meeting or exceeding expectations. And that you can see across all grades that we went up almost 6% this year in ELA, which is phenomenal news. Our ELA scores trend higher in the district, but we always want to improve. And you can see in some grades, like 3rd and 6th, we really went higher. So if you go to the next slide, we're going to compare, we always talk about apples and oranges, right? One cohort of students is different than another cohort of students, but I always like looking at the previous year compared to our current year. And you can see that our current 4th graders, right, who took it last spring, or 70% compared to that 61% from the year previous. And those third graders in 2023 who were at 61% went up to 74% last spring. So they gained 13%, which is that's beyond standard deviation. I have my AP stat teacher in the back of the room with Tiffany Brennan, right? That's really significant. So we have either remained the same, like in grade 6, or made significant improvement across the grade level. So just a lot to celebrate here. And when I went back to historical data, and the test has changed a little bit since the 2018-2019 school year, we're either meeting or exceeding what we were in 2018-2019. So that's why when I started the presentation, I feel like we're finally kind of shaking off some of the COVID. We're still going to be dealing with learning loss and having to do learning acceleration for years to come, but really some really great news and a testament to two of the leaders here at the podium tonight. And they're going to dive a little bit more deeply in the data as well. So Sarah's going to we have to compare all of our 4 elementary schools, and she'll take us from there.
Hi, thank you so much for having me this evening. It's always so nice to see everyone. As Dr. Tu mentioned, there's a lot to celebrate. At the elementary level, this is kind of my third go around with you guys. My family always knows when this night is coming in the fall. And it's sort of been our discussion over the past 3 years that we really, really want to help see students move from that not meeting into partially meeting and partially meeting into that approaching, and really moving students over from the partially and the approaching into the meeting and exceeding. And that's really happening with really good efficacy at all building levels, and especially as a district-wide trend. So that's something that we've seen across 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, which is just really something to be celebrating. That's a testament to all of the hard work our teachers are doing in professional development and everyday learning and coaching cohorts, and they are just going above and beyond to give a top-tier education to our students. So this is our 3rd grade. I know the data is a little small, but it gets posted to the website. But I promise all of the trends have moved in a really, really positive direction up and getting students to that meeting and exceeding category. Same types of trends here in 4th grade. 3rd grade was sort of a bigger jump overall. But as Dr. Tu mentioned, when you look at where they were as 3rd graders to 4th graders this year, there has been significant improvements overall. And I think something to really look at and celebrate is that exceeding expectation at the district level went from 30 to 40%, which is a huge, huge jump up. And again, a testament to building really strong systems for students. Something that I'm really thankful for, Dr. Foster asked us to reflect earlier this morning on, what does kindness sound like and feel like to us as administrators? And for me, it's really celebrating successes of colleagues. So thank you all for letting us have Lauren Samara as our supervisor of MTSS. That work has already had such a giant imprint. I can tell you, speaking to strong systems, we've sat every day this week. By the end of the week on Friday, we will sat with every single teacher K through 5 throughout the district and every single academic intervention team with myself, Lauren, Jenna Peluso, who oversees Quest, all of our academic interventionists, to make sure that no child is missed, because we don't see gains like this if we don't have eyes on every child. So thank you for helping us build a system that supports everyone.
Thank you.
Again, similar trends in 5th grade. We're really starting to see that shift of students getting into that meeting and exceeding category. Something that's been really monumental in helping those students in the partially and not meeting bands has been high impact tutoring. We did receive a grant for that last year, which was really transformational in the educational opportunities that all children were allowed to have. That high impact tutoring allowed us to meet our most vulnerable learners who really did fall into the not meeting and partially meeting categories and provide them with 1-to-1 or 2-to-1 small group, really heavy, impactful tutoring sessions throughout the school year. And that continues again this year in October. So we just started looking at all the lists to start rostering for children that might be eligible. And for many of those students, those high impact tutoring opportunities would not happen absent this program at school. So I really want to highlight that as a huge win for us here in Princeton.
Okay. Keisha, did you want to highlight the achievement for different subpopulations?
So, basically similar to comments that Dr. Barnes-Johnson made, some of our patterns are still holding true when it comes to certain populations that we need to continue to go back to the drawing board to find better ways to support their growth. But you can see that there is an increase across the lower populations when it comes to, for example, if you were to look at the numbers that are at meeting, which is the lighter green, or exceeding, you can see almost like a stair step in our populations that are typically the lowest, which shows that we do have some growth there when it comes to where the numbers traditionally could be. And so again, there's always work to be done for us when it comes to these areas, because we have to make sure, as we celebrate the 70, 80% or more of students who are meeting and exceeding, that means that our focus needs to go to designing at the margins, and our margin at the lower end is populations of students who need us to continue to refine our skills. So some of the things that have already been talked about when it comes to NTSS and some strategies that will be spoken about more specifically moving forward will be things that we continue to do in order to increase the gains for these populations. But we do have some good data when you look over the cohorts, which we're able to do with data that actually came in about 3 days before we had to have this presentation ready for tonight's meeting. So we will be continuing to delve into those data to see how we have grown children and what successes we can replicate for others.
Can go to the next slide. So then this is the year to year. So what I love to see, except that it's 1 percentage point lower for our Black students, but you can see across the subgroups, the staircase going up, like Keisha was saying. So there's still obviously room to grow, but compared to last year, we're hitting these different subgroup populations. And then for ELA and for math, if I could be wrong here, but I'm trying to remember all the data, but I think we moved up every subgroup, gender, free and reduced lunch, ESL, almost every single subgroup was moved up as well, which is that MTSS work that we're talking about, that it's not just the overall population that we want to grow, it's every kid that we want to grow.
And so again, you can look here and see, the similar trend. We do have a pattern of typically having, for ELA in particular, our female students outperforming our male students by small percentages. So whether or not that shifts from year to year, they're still both performing at high levels. Mm-hmm. And again, similar to what Dr. Tu was just talking about, when you look at the cohort data, which is not what you have before you, but the cohort data is actually following the same group of kids, looking at their 4th year data when they're in 5th grade and seeing what the growth looks like. And when you look at those in the last 3 years, I can speak specifically to the middle grades just because that'll be one way to look at these data. But what you see are patterns. So over 3 years for some of these subgroups, we've seen continuous movement upward. And for others, it's been over 2 years. So again, we do have some patterns to celebrate, but there's work to do.
So to build off of that, you can look at our gen ed students, 87% met or exceeded expectations in ELA, but 40% of our students with IEPs, right? So we grew, but it's still like those dark bars should be closer together, right? So there's a lot to celebrate. So the one group that did go down was the 504. Students with 504s down to 73%, but I really like seeing our free and reduced lunch, our MLs, and special ed growing. So that's really good news to share.
Yeah, and one thing that I can say about that, there's always data don't answer questions as much as they give you better questions to ask.
Yeah.
And so one of the questions that we are asking at the secondary level in particular for many of our students with 504s is how can we better support executive function? Because we know that for many of those students, there are different diagnoses like ADD or ADHD, and a lot of things that are specific to us doing a better job as educators of supporting executive function, especially when we're talking about the 2 transition years, which we have at secondary. So we have our 6th graders who are transitioning from 4 different schools to 1. And then we have our 9th graders who are transitioning from at least 3 schools. When you consider we have 2 feeders. And then of course, as a very, I'm trying to find the right word because transient doesn't sound right in this moment, but as a district that has a population of students that is coming and going consistently, we do have a lot of different populations of children who are coming together in 9th grade in particular. So when you think of the natural need for support when kids are making a transition, just in general for executive function. And then when you think about what's developmentally appropriate for kids at the older grade level, you really need to continue to do the work that we're trying to do, which is figuring out how do we do a more intentional job of supporting executive function.
Okay, so some areas of strength. Again, I know it's tiny, but they'll get posted. So if you want to read them over in detail, some big ideas to look at. We do have consistent performance above that state average. Again, we always want to continue to grow and broaden our horizons, but we are consistently performing above. Again, building that strong infrastructure piece, I can't highlight that enough. We really do want to be a high-performing system that supports high-performing kids. That has been a very, very large goal over the past few years. We do have really strong curricular infrastructure happening. This year in particular, in relation to ELA, we have Orton Gillingham rolled out as a structured literacy block each day with students in kindergarten through third grade. Fourth and fifth will join that rollout next year, which is very exciting. Our ELA data metrics that we've kept in district have really exploded, which has been really, really exciting. And even the anecdotal data, I was sitting with third grade teachers today, and they were telling me how excited kids were to learn morphology and how much fun they were having with it and playing with words and unlocking vocabulary and higher level thinking skills and application to it. So just really exciting things going on. We now added in an iReady ELA diagnostic just to help us keep closer metrics. That was an adaptive benchmark for students that helped teachers plan more instructional groupings and really just had us keep a closer eye on students. And we also added in the Link It ELA. Previously, we really only had a DRA as a reading metric, and it wasn't really giving us a full picture of who students were. It was just a quick snapshot that could have been kind of subjective. So now we have multiple metrics to really look at that ELA growth. Specifically the Link It that really does show us how students are progressing towards end of year standard mastery. So that's a really helpful snapshot in those higher level grades. We did shorten the DRA this year. We went to a progress monitoring tool after forming a committee last spring and based on teacher feedback, and that has worked really well. Instead of taking 5 weeks of instructional time to administer, it took 2 weeks, which is really just a huge saving of getting back instructional time and not having our teachers feel extremely overburdened, which was good and great things to celebrate. So reading levels are still being reported, but we have a little bit of a fuller picture for students. Some areas that we'd like to continue to grow in are really to continue to support those students with minimal and limited proficiencies. Again, we met with every academic intervention team over the course of this week, and we pulled every student data piece that we had and really delved into how we're supporting them, who can get high impact tutoring, who can benefit from tier 2 and tier 3 services. So really making sure that those students are captured and supported is a huge goal to continue to progress towards. Again, that work with multi-tiered systems of support and making sure that all students are captured and that all services that we can provide, we are providing for students. That high impact tutoring continuing into year 2 is really exciting for us to continue to support students with. And then just really redefining that NJTSS process with our new supervisor. We do have a new intervention coach with us, which is very exciting. She comes with a wealth of knowledge. She's consulted at the college level. She did work with the State Department. She pretty much did the whole early literacy website work with the state and wrote the manual. So she really is an expert, and we're very lucky to have her as an intervention coach this year. So lots of great things happening as we move forward. Sort of some next steps on the horizon for us. As mentioned, we do have Orton Gillingham happening at the elementary level. We certified 10 teachers last year, which means they are certified practitioners, which is excellent for our students. We have them across all of our buildings. We are continuing with our second cohort to make sure that more teachers are highly trained. So this really came from staff interest in getting that next level of certification and really making sure that they're bringing fidelity to this program and the experts in their building. So that second cohort is really exciting to have underway. Our interventionist role, again, we're very, very lucky to have her this year. She's a wealth of knowledge, and our teachers are already using her as a great go-to resource. So thank you for letting us restructure coaching that way last year. It really has been quite a benefit to supporting all students at the elementary level. We do have phenomenal instructional coaches. Allowing them to departmentalize into ELA math has really provided more targeted cohorts to support students and teachers. So teachers, 1 per grade level, come offline 1 day in a month, and they go for a cohort. It's about an hour and a half, and they look at best practice, how we can best support them, the latest research on how to really reach students. So we're very lucky to have our coaches leading that work, and we're continuing that into this year. We are observing during that structured literacy block for teachers in that K through 3 range, just to make sure they have another touch point of support as they're getting used to this new curricular initiative. We did train all of our 3rd grade and 2nd grade teachers this past summer. We will go to 4th and 5th next summer as well and continue that rollout K through 5. We have our full rollout happening in grades 2 and 3 this year for the first time. So teachers are excited to get underway with that. And the last 2 are really big ones. We thought we had a little more time for this one, but we didn't because of the dissolution for Teachers College Reading and Writing Program. So we are going into an ELA program review starting in October. We are taking teachers who are volunteering to kind of come offline about half a day over the next 3 months and come to form a committee with us. We're going to go through best practice of program reviews and then look at what's on the market as a core ELA component for reading and for writing. We thought we had a little more time, but we are moving it up. A lot of those resources are just getting taken down quicker and quicker every day. So we really want to make sure that we're providing staff with resources that fit their need. There are also new ELA standards from the DOE that we had to adopt. They released them in late spring for a fall adoption. So kudos to all of our teachers who did report card work with me over the summer. It was a huge undertaking, and we're very, very thankful for that work there. Yes.
So I think you answered the question. Staff buy-in seems pretty strong. No, they don't see this as punitive. They're really rolling with the program.
Yeah, our staff are phenomenal. I really do love to brag that we have the best students and teachers in the whole wide world, and that's very true. Staff buy-in, because we've offered such rigorous professional development, I feel as if staff feel fully supported. Our coaches who are able to touch base with them, our once-a-month curricular check-ins with myself and coaches and principals, I do feel like there's a lot of staff support here. We've had some really great year 7, 8 teachers who started in our district this year, and they've made multiple comments to me of, wow, I've never had this level of support anywhere I've worked before, which is just really nice to hear. So yeah, staff buy-in is big. I don't love to have to throw another curriculum review at staff. We just did the math one. It's a lot. But most of our teachers came to me asking for this because they do know those resources are getting taken down more and more. Something has to be done to sort of adjust and make sure they have a full curriculum to use moving forward.
Just because I know culture is like a cliche word, but there's a culture now.
There is a culture. I mean, there's always been a culture of excellence. I think we're building more into a culture of support and reflection to add into that excellence. Yeah.
I think you mentioned this a little while ago, but could you explain what high impact tutoring entails?
I sure can. So high impact tutoring runs on cycles. Teachers who are interested in being tutors apply, and they are matched with students that are shown to demonstrate the most need of a tutoring situation. So they might be our students that need the most help and support. They're matched with a one-on-one tutor, or there might be 2-to-1, 2 students to 1 teacher, and they work together for an hour after school about 3 days a week. Yeah. Yeah.
I want to congratulate you on this great progress. And I also just wanted to mention that on maybe the 2nd or 3rd day of school, my 3rd grader came home and was like, Mom, what's a Greek light root? What's a Greek base light? Progress, yeah. And I'm like, I have no idea what a Greek base light is. You mean like a corporation, basically, like you're speaking gibberish. But then she started talking about prefixes and suffixes. Wow. So we figured it out eventually. It's photo.
That makes me really
she was like,
happy.
I got it right. Yes. She was very happy.
I love that. That makes me really, really happy. Yes, they're really impressive. They're very about it. I was in 3rd grade classrooms today, and they were very interested in the morphology work, which was great to see. So very eager minds, which I think makes our teachers have that buy-in piece even more. When the students are excited for the learning, I think that just helps elicit the buy-in. And I've had staff say, I think this was a lot, but looking at it a year from now or seeing students engage with it, it's been worth it. So that's been really good to hear. And then again, a shameless shout out, Kristen Whitmore is wonderful. You should all take the opportunity to watch the Princeton University mentorship program in action if they have any day. I don't usually cry. I'm not a crier. I did cry watching it last year when I was there for their launch meeting. So please, please, please check that out. It's a wonderful work of heart.
Thank you.
Yes.
And we'll wrap up at 6:12. So thank you, Keisha.
Okay, in 612 again, we know the patterns here in Princeton. Performing above the state level is not where our concerns come in. Our concerns are making sure we're moving up our subgroups. So one of the big strands toward that end is the fact that, across 3 of our 4 grade levels at the secondary level, as you saw in the data, we have 6, 7, 8, and 9 who participate in the NJSLA. 3 of those, we had continual reduction of numbers of students in every single level and an increase in exceeding expectations. So the pattern, if you think about the traditional assessment idea of a bell curve, the curve is shifting all the way over to the right for 3 of the 4 grades. And even in the grade where it hasn't gone all the way over to the right in that same fashion, there's still movement over. So when you consider strengths, the fact that we've been working toward alignment throughout the middle grades is proving to be successful when you look at our cohort data as well as our year-to-year data. When you look at our benchmark assessments that we started implementing from 6th through high school grades last year for all of our general track classes, meaning at the high school, AP classes for English did not have to take the assessment because, of course, our standards are from K through 12. And if you're in an AP course, you're in a college level class. So it's actually nonsensical to take an assessment when you're past that bank of standards. So the only grade levels that participate in our benchmark assessment are those grades that are aligned, or those courses rather, that are aligned to our standards at the state level. And so the fact that we will now have 2 years of data in most of those grades to be able to make instructional decisions along the year where there were no common assessments at all previously is a strength for our program that we are continuing to develop this year, as was stated earlier, with Linkit beginning to be implemented in the 6th grade. So when you look at growth areas, again, you'll hear the same statements from me until we figure out a way to do better by these populations, continuing to develop the numbers who are not meeting and exceeding expectations, continue to do the work for horizontal and vertical alignment. One of the things we started doing when it says across the humanities 2 years ago, we're starting to have conversations at the high school level so that it wasn't just English conversations and social studies conversations, but because literacy is that connector, as Dr. Barnes-Johnson said earlier, across all of our content areas, we're all developing disciplinary literacy. So really starting to do that work with more intention and having teachers come together talking about strategies that are working successfully with the same students. Because if I'm in English 9 or English 1 rather, and I'm in US 1, these are the same kids. And so really thinking intentionally about how we support the learning in that way so our kids can generalize. And these data points that we are seeing are providing some evidence that what we're doing is having outcomes. When you look at that idea of really working toward intentional transfer, that's been key for us at the secondary level. You can move to the next slide. Thank you. So when it comes through to our, support, we're going to continue to have that professional learning that we've been having over the past 3 years, in particular at the high school level and 7 and 8, but including 6 for 7 years, to do some work for culturally sustaining literacy practices. So that way we are actually being responsive to who are the learners in our classrooms, making sure that we are continuing to do work to increase student engagement. And one of the exciting things last year and even the beginning of this year is having conversations with different staff across the year, really targeted on whether or not students are driving the learning. And so really working toward making sure we are empowering our students, looking at increasing data-informed lesson design. And so along that same line of engagement, really trying to make sure that we are using these data that we now have to really home in on what students need us to do in order to meet the needs that the data identify and in order to help them to continue to grow in the areas that the data show they're doing well in. Continuing to grow our use of inclusive text throughout that range. Last year was very exciting at the middle school in particular because of the large funding allocation that we were able to have, and hopefully continuing to do that work so that the students have books in their hand that they want to read and that they can also both see themselves in as mirrors, but also they can see and understand others as windows. Looking at the ELA lab for Tier 2 support at the middle school. And so now there's a restructuring there where there used to be a weekly time, twice a week, for everyone to experience some form of support depending on what their needs were. Now a more targeted program, and continuing to use Reading Plus, which was a tool that we brought in several years ago for those specific students, as well as students who are in some of our support settings for classifications that they have related to their IEPs. And then looking at ways that we can continue to have professional collaboration across those content areas, as I said earlier, so that we are actually partnering together and really doing the work of supporting our learners and growing in a more effective and efficient way.
Thank you, Keisha. And Sarah, you're going to stay up here, and Tiffany's going to join us for math. We are going to skim through some of the elementary comparison slides, but once again, to save time, because we have people here for public comment and we want to honor their time, and it is a long presentation. There's a lot to celebrate, but we want to honor the time. So basically, mathematics for NJSLA is in grades 3 through 8, as well as Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry. So we can go to the next slide. And just like ELA, I'm going to draw your eye to the last row, far right column. And so overall, you can see that we went up 10% in mathematics, which is fantastic. A lot of this is attributed to two things: a clear, transparent math placement process, which we'll get into when Tiffany hops on, and as well as clarification from the state about who takes math assessments in high school. So only our freshmen took math assessments in high school. They're not taking geometry and algebra 2, or algebra 1 and algebra 2 and geometry. So that's why you see, we did have a question of, how do we go from 50-something% of an algebra 2 meaning receiving to 100%? Because only our 7th, 8th, and 9th grade students took algebra 2. So that's why we, have such a boost. But I think those are two levers that needed to be pulled, and I'm happy that we pulled them. But we'll go and dive into the data a little bit more through here, so you can see the comparison. For the most part, except for grade 6, which was an insignificant decrease, we increased or stayed the same. The other part, and I'll let Tiffany jump in here. Tiff, can you talk about why grade 7 went up so much?
So in the last year, 2 years, we've really changed the middle school math placement process. For instance, in this past school year, there were 2 classes in 8th grade of Algebra 2 students, and the year before that, there were 8. Coincidentally, maybe not coincidentally, that same year, those Algebra 2 scores were quite low. And last year, when we have kids that maybe belong there a little bit more, now we can see 100% of them passed. So we're not trying to gatekeep kids, but we want to make sure that kids are appropriately challenged, not in over their heads, because we are finding that kids that take Algebra 1 before they're ready often struggle in Algebra 2 and often struggle in geometry and pre-calc and calc and all the way forward and through their science classes as well. So we're really trying to look at multiple measures to put kids in the right places. And so the number of kids that are tested changed a lot from 22-23 to 23-24. For instance, Algebra 1, you can see we had 100% of 6th graders. That's only less than 10 kids. That was similar the year before. But in 7th grade, there were 78 students that took Algebra 1 this year, whereas last year there were upwards of somewhere in the neighborhood of 140. And so you can see we went from 47% as an average to our average is 57%, because we are spending more time on those pre-algebraic skills. We're actually giving kids time to learn the 7th and 8th grade skills. And so therefore their Algebra 1 is better, and also their Algebra 2 is better. Yes.
I'm a little confused. Aren't there some kids who take Algebra 2 in 10th grade?
Yes, but the state requirement is only testing once at the high school level, and then I get the federal and the New Jersey. What requirement's different? We have to test in 9th grade. So there are many students that take it.
Only tested up to 9th grade.
No,
we
apparently inadvertently tested extra kids.
So that was one of the things that we cleaned up with processes
Yes.
and procedures, is making sure that we're not every year you're being pulled, for assessments. Now that does negate, well, how are our sophomores doing in Algebra 2 on NJSLA, or how maybe our juniors or seniors, but then we do have Link It, and that can help us, be a predictor. So yes, the students who are taking Algebra 2 in 7th grade are extremely accelerated. 8th grade, that's their second high school course that they're taking, or in 9th grade, they're a higher level. So yeah, we would want 100% of those students to meet, just like in 6th and 7th grade for Algebra 1, that should, if they're taking Algebra 1 in 6th or 7th grade, 100% should be meeting or exceeding expectations. Where we really want to look is keeping that up there, but our 8th and 9th grade students. So students who take Algebra 1 in 9th grade, I believe we went through every kid. They were all not PPS students in 8th grade.
Correct.
So they were transfers and move-ins who didn't have an opportunity to take Algebra 1 in middle school, or they weren't ready to quite take it yet. So what kind of supports, which we'll get to, are put in place to help them, because 9%, if it's 36 kids, that's not, I don't care. 9% is 9%. We want a much higher number there for those students. But yes, Algebra 2, we only would test in 9th grade at the high school for NJSLA. And the same thing for geometry. Our 8th grade, this is the first year geometry was assessed at the middle school level.
That was 45 kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would like to see it
211.
this year, in comparison with math placement tweaks, because if a student is taking geometry in 8th grade, it should be 100% meeting or exceeding expectations. So it's strengthening our 6th and 7th grade program, our Algebra 1 program, so that they have those stepping stones to be successful in geometry.
So in Algebra 1,
Mhm.
is the 57% average a straight average or a weighted average?
That's a great
straight
question.
average. That's every single kid. Straight average. It's not weighted.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Because we have far fewer kids taking it as 9th graders, and well, the fewest take it as 6th graders. The next fewest is 9th grade. Our bulk of our kids take Algebra 1 as 8th graders. And remember that Algebra 1 is a 9th grade level course. So.
And the state just gives us the 57. They don't say, wow, look how great you're doing before, they just average anyone who's taking an Algebra 1 course. Yes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. You want to go to the next slide, Mr. Bolton? Thank you. Okay. So these are the slides we're going to just go quickly through, and then Sarah will really highlight the
Good
big
things are happening.
Yeah. Good things are happening. I love it.
Good things are happening.
You
You can read in more detail when it is not 9:15.
Yeah.
You can keep going. We'll go to our plan and moving.
Oh, so just real quick, can you just go back one slide? I do want to highlight this once again. Look, every subgroup in race and ethnicity moved up. So still, not an opportunity disparity here, but once again, we are trending in the right direction, which is great. So just want to skip ahead a little bit more. From female and male, we moved up both genders as well compared to last year. And then the next one, so this is our distribution of for 504, free and reduced lunch, L's. But if you go to the next slide, I think once again, free and reduced lunch stayed static, but every other group went up. So this is once again, this is the step when we talk about MTSS, those multi-tiered systems of support. This is what we want to keep emphasizing with teachers and our students. Okay, then I'll let Sarah now talk.
I promise I'm not trying to trick you. It really does look good. I just know it's late at night. Some areas of strength, again, that consistent performance above state averages in the meeting and exceeding. Specifically, we are certainly continuing to move children over into those categories. And again, really providing targeted support through tiered intervention and high impact tutoring for the students on the other end that do need that support to kind of move over. Really strong curricular components happening. We did a whole math program review last year. We had pilots going on. We had a math coach put into place. Thank you for your support in all of those things. They've really led to robust mathematic programming. So some things that we have, Ready Math as a diagnostic. We also have iReady. Why do we have those two pieces? iReady is adaptive, so it can show students above grade level. So one little friend we discussed this week is 3 solid years above grade level. So we had to really strategically plan for what we were going to do with him in math. And then looking at the Link It data, that is really end of the year standard mastery and a good predictor of how they'll do on standardized testing. We have items like XL, Ready, Diagnostic leads to pathways where students can practice at their very specific, more granular level of where they really need reinforcement in mathematics.
We are continuing our second year of professional development with Jennifer Lemp around math workshops so that our teachers feel ready to differentiate for our students. And then our math instructional coach, again, huge shout out. His name is Dan Hardiker. He is wonderful. He is actually a Princeton grad. So he is homegrown here. Well, kind of. He's from Cranberry, but homegrown and went to Princeton High School. So shout out for both. Yes. Shout out for both. And he is just wonderful. He loves this district so much. And our teachers are really so thankful to have him. I have teachers reach out to me every day telling me how thankful they are for Mary Ellen Wallauer, who is our ELA coach, and for Dan Hardiker, who is our math coach. They really are in the trenches every day, making sure that teachers feel supported. If you were to poll elementary teachers, not all of them feel the most confident about math instruction, especially at those higher levels. They do need support structures. And Dan is super approachable and just in those classrooms continually. He knows all the children by name. We are very, very lucky. Some continued areas of growth. We really want to continue that differentiated option. We were very lucky to get some really great grant funds last year to help build up a math resource library center in our book rooms for teachers. They have math games, so something like Blobby's Pizza Kitchen for fraction awareness with students to help with that differentiated structure when students are in rotations, so that teachers are able to do those deeper lessons with students that may need to be extended beyond the curriculum or go deeper into the curriculum and be further supported. We have things like versatiles, exemplars, which are great for our students that are high achieving because they're really abstract reasoning and bring in language problems for students. So again, really nice things being added to our repertoire of math resources for teachers. Continuing to refine that MTSS process on both sides of the house. We really do want to make sure that our math awareness is happening, that we are really catching those students that would benefit. Our academic intervention teachers are trained in several things. This past summer, a lot of them were sent to training on multisensory math. People came as far as Australia to go to that training. It is a world-renowned training. Our staff found it extremely, extremely beneficial. So those working with our most at-risk students for math are highly, highly trained to do so. Okay. And then where are we going? Continued professional development, just so our teachers feel really comfortable and confident. We do have Continental Math League for 4th and 5th grade. It is a highlight for students. They get a certificate. If they are a consistent, high scorer, they get a little medal. We do awards for them in the spring. It's a really great thing to celebrate. And again, that's really self-paced. That is for students that are truly, truly interested in doing math outside of school. And then they come in and take these really intricate tests that have to do with high aptitude math application. So those kids are really, really extended learners who are, self-driven in that pursuit. Math workshop implementation, again, to continue that differentiated support to help learners across the continuum. Additional resources added to that lending library. And something that we really want to celebrate and highlight, for our DLI program, we want to provide more support for those teachers when it comes to math. That's constantly a question because math is taught in Spanish. So there is an extra block of time built into their schedule this year for math and English reinforcement. Our math coach, Dan Hardiker, did work all summer putting together a math resource library for those teachers to help with that language bridging and to make sure that those skills were solid in both English and in Spanish, which is going to help us scratch the surface that when we have students that encounter a little difficulty, is it a language acquisition piece or is it really a mathematical practice piece? So we're really excited to sort of see that through this year. So it's a new exciting opportunity. And then the last thing, having that double focus block really is so helpful for teachers to be able to pull for additional math groups and to really dig deeper with students that just benefit from that small group time with teachers. So that's working out really well as well.
At the 6 to 12 level, we are still consistently performing above state levels, meeting and exceeding expectations. We have increased our curricular infrastructure big time, especially at the middle school, but at the high school as well. Last year, we started Math Lab in grade 6 to 8, and that was for all students who were not yet meeting expectations on the NJSLA, and we saw huge improvements. And that was with a program we kind of threw together in August of last year. We saw huge improvements, especially at the 6th and 7th grade levels, in how well kids did in their math classes, but also on the NJSLA itself. This year, we really are intentional with the help of Lauren Samara, our supervisor of MTSS. We are being much more intentional with how we're structuring the class. Last year it was a suggestion and nobody really took that suggestion very well. This year it's more of a, this is how it's going to go. And so we also are using iReady 612. We needed to get some buy-in from teachers and from students, and we did get that. And with just some extra help time, kids did really well. So now that we're providing more structure for teachers and more resources for teachers and students, we expect even better results. We are continuing our district benchmarks in grades 6 to 12. We worked on some common assessments throughout the courses so that if you are taking geometry, regardless of who your teacher is, your test, your big activities should look similar. We know that kids and parents, are always going to say, teacher A is harder than teacher B. We just don't want them to be right? We know they're always going to say it. We don't want them to be right. And so we've worked a lot on common assessments. And once we have that assessment, it kind of forms the activities that lead up to those assessments. And we've worked a lot on standards progression alignment. In the past, it was just kind of like, well, here's our textbook. We're going to start on page 1 and go to the last page in order. But those textbooks are written for to sell as many books as they can to the biggest audience as possible, not necessarily for our students or students generally in New Jersey. We have a lot of work to do though, because not all of our students are meeting or exceeding expectations. So we're working at the middle school and the high school level really to increase that comprehension. We have added this year a math lab class at the high school level for students who haven't yet passed NJ GPA. It's not NJ SLA related, but it's a similar structure to what we're doing at the middle school, so we can provide time for students at school to meet one of those graduation requirements. We're really working to tie, if kids are struggling with some of the skills in algebra, is it the algebra or is it the adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers or the fractions that are really holding them up? And it tends to be the fractions that gets everybody, not necessarily the algebra. It's the fractions they struggle with before that. So it's making it hard to access that algebra. And we're working on providing more and more time for teachers vertically and horizontally. So with their people teaching the same courses and the course before and after them to do some better and more thorough planning and creating a progression and actually using our data better. We're trying to work on the buy-in from students and teachers. These benchmarks are sometimes kids just see them as like another, let me just click the button and get through it. And that doesn't, unfortunately, give us all the data and we can't use it. It's not as useful as we would hope it to be. But some of that starts with buy-in from the teachers as well. And so at our next steps on the next slide, we're implementing suggestions from our math program review that happened, finished up last year with instructional resources, standards alignment. There were, sort of new math standards that were supposed to be implemented in September. So we rewrote a lot of curriculum this summer. And then in August, they said, oh, you can wait a year. So the good news is we're kind of ahead of the game in most classes, and the ones that we didn't quite get to yet intentionally, we're okay. We're in with our new schedules at both the middle school and the high school. Everybody has more math instructional time, which should be great. We are using department time to map prior grade level standards and skills at current curriculum. And we talked about that vertical articulation as well. Looking at data, revised curriculum I mentioned already. We're focusing on research-based best practices and pedagogy, increased use of math workshop model, which Sarah mentioned as well, and using those MTSS strategies throughout all math classrooms. I have to say I've done 8 observations already this year, and I've seen like a marked difference in some of the instructional strategies that teachers use just from a year ago. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah. And I will take a moment to brag. Miss Brennan is a wonderful partner in that 5th to 6th grade transition.
Yeah, we're in lockstep.
Yes, we're in lockstep. I feel like the belle of the ball come mid-June when all the math placement emails start coming in. And I just want to thank Ms. Brennan for being a wonderful partner. That process is very, very tight. I feel really good about our processes, 5th to 6th.
And I just want to give kudos. What I kept when we were working on this presentation, which is 60 slides. So thank you once again for sitting through this with us. The word that kept coming is momentum. I think we have very positive momentum. And a quote that I came across earlier today, and I actually shared with Dr. Foster, is like, if you put the paraphrasing, put the right people in the right positions, just get out of their way. And I think we have some really good key people in the right positions doing amazing work, from the admin team down to the teachers, and the support positions. And I just have to do a plug to the board, because we added a Quest teacher. We added an MTSS supervisor. We have a math coach now. We have better curriculum resources. We paid for a program review. Like, the money and the resources being allocated, and now you're seeing the fruition of that. So I really appreciate the support, because I know Princeton is a costly place to live and taxes are high, but I think the investment is paying off. So thank you for investing in our curriculum and instructional programming, because this is the good news that we want to celebrate for our kids. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Awesome.
Thank you. Thanks for
you.
joining us. Thank you, Dr. Tu. Appreciate it. Dr. Foster, is there anything else? Oh, yeah, there is actually.
Just
There is.
one more slide presentation. It'll be short. No, I just want to highlight the calendar. It's a very small change, very, very small. We're just shifting the additional CP conference date to another, and we've highlighted it in blue on the calendar. So please, oh, there it is. Okay.
Oh, right there.
It's now on Friday, the 22nd. That means all other schools will have a regular schedule, but CP has an additional day of conferences because of the dual language programs and, the English and the Spanish partners and the amount of conferences. So that's the only change, I promise.
And we did that because the teachers requested it.
Yeah, the
Okay.
staff suggested it,
Yeah.
and I thought that was a better idea.
Yeah,
Mhm.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, and now, you're complete for tonight, your report?
That's it.
2 hours later. No, but thank you. There's a lot going on in the district. We appreciate, your leadership, Dr. Tu and Dr. Foster, and great things are happening for kids. So thank you. Appreciate it. All right, now we're going to move on to public comment. I apologize. We usually try to get public comment in an hour, not later than an hour. I wasn't expecting a 60-page slide, but I know we do this every year, and I don't remember. So I apologize for those people who have been waiting to speak. So first up is Hazel Fitzgerald. If you could just come up, say the street you live on, the town, and if you could please keep your comments to 3 minutes, we'd appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Hazel Fitzgerald. I live on South Harrison Street. I'm here to share my experience as a tutor in our recent tutoring program at the middle school. I'd like to highlight the importance of such initiatives in our education system. Over the summer, I joined the tutoring program by way of an email to my 6th grade math teacher, Mr. Lee. The program provided me with an opportunity to use my math skills and allowed me to practice my Spanish, as the tutees were primarily Spanish speaking. When I arrived on the first day, I was able to meet the kids I was working with and began teaching them immediately. Among the students, there was a huge variety of skill, experience, and personality. I got to know my tutees, and I really enjoyed working with them. They're both extremely kind, hardworking students, and I'm so glad I was able to teach them. Tutoring programs play a crucial role in supporting students' academic growth. As a tutor, I had the opportunity to work closely with students, providing personalized attention and guidance, particularly for those students for whom English is a new language. This one-on-one interaction allows for a deeper understanding of each student's unique learning needs and challenges. In my role, I witnessed firsthand how dedicated support can make a significant difference in a student's academic journey. Tutoring not only helps reinforce classroom learning, but also builds confidence and fosters a love for learning in students. In the end, I think that the program helped them a lot, and they were both in the top 5 most improved when the final testing day came. An unintended consequence of the program was that I gained valuable experience, learned a lot about the different methods of conveying the concepts, and different learning and teaching styles. Through the program, we established an intercultural and communal bond. It was an amazing opportunity that I hope to do each year, and I love to greet the kids I worked with in the hallway and ask them, ¿Cómo te va? ¿A qué clase vas? I hope that I'll see them again in the program next year. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Next up is Rika.
Hi there. My name is Rika Elikish-Lipsitz. I live on Shady Brook Lane. So I've been also a part of the tutoring program. It's been running for about 4 years. I've been part of it for 3. And I know this is a weird request. Could you guys like hide the timer so I don't see it? Is that a weird request?
No, Matt, you can turn it off.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
no,
you.
I just don't want to see it. Like if it's there, it's all good.
No, it's
But
fine. We'll turn it off. Yeah.
So I'm here to speak on behalf of the tutoring program because this tutoring program has been lovely. I've learned it's improved my Spanish skills. It is like improved my teaching skills, and I want to be a teacher. So this has been very growth for me. It's also, it really helps the kids. Like I've been looking at these kids that progress like so much in the time that we're with them. And like we've done exams too that actually prove that, like mathematically. But last year, this program had 12 sessions, and this year it had 9 due to budget cuts. And it is a really important program because especially this focuses on Spanish-speaking students. And we have seen a bunch of statistics that support that these are some of the groups that need the most assistance. And this summer program where kids go 2 hours a day to like learn math consistently with volunteer tutors is really helpful. And the program doesn't cost that much money to run. I don't know the specific numbers. I'm not allowed to. But we have...
Of course you are. You just have to ask Mr. Bolden.
I'll ask afterwards.
Okay.
So besides teachers, security guard, and then we also have free dinner provided, which is a great promoter of equity because it means that parents, it's not a blockage for them to send their kids to this program. In fact, it encourages them, which is exactly what we want. Like, especially when we're talking about like reduced lunch, this is exactly what we need to support these kids. And besides that, all the worksheets made by Mr. Lee or by us tutees or tutors rather. And everything else is like, we're volunteer tutors, we're using school space. It's a really well-run program and it doesn't cost that much to run. And I think especially in the light of the data that I was seeing, it would do us so much good to run it more, not less. Especially because like as someone who benefits from our AP programs and from all the help that kids that are already on the Excel track are receiving, I think it makes a lot of sense to invest not just in us, but in all the kids that are struggling and below the average of what they should be at. And it's like, it's not because these kids are dumb. They're so smart. It's just some of them didn't ever go to school in time to learn how to use a calculator. Some of them don't know how to put fractions into calculators. And we're teaching them this, and there's extreme growth. The average growth for students on the exams that we gave them was 300%, right? So average, like 36% on average pre-test, 65% post-test. And like there's some kids that went from 3% to 51%, 10% to 52%. There's this kid that like, I was like, by the end, I was teaching him how to use like square roots and cube roots. Like there's huge growth that's going on here. And I think we definitely should keep promoting that and expanding this program to help more people. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Tu, could you just briefly explain the funding for that program and what happened?
Sure. So that I think Tiger Camp, right, is what it's called. So that's funded out of Title I. So every year
That's federal money.
It's federal money and it changes, accordingly. And I think the philosophy for the past few years across the district has been tried to put more resources during the school year so that we can capture more kids. So I think it wasn't intentional, it was sort of how do we spread it out? And we also she hasn't started yet, but we also added an additional ESL teacher to the middle school this year to support during the school year. So that's something, I can bring back to our supervisor of ESL, Ms. Russell, Mr. Burr, and Lauren Samara, who helps navigate those special projects to kind of see. But we're sort of, I don't want to say at the mercy of federal funding, but that's why, things are allocated the way they're allocated. And we capture more kids when the school year's back in session. But it's fantastic to hear that data. So maybe they just need to kind of review that data again with Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Dr. Tu. And thank you, Rika and Hazel, for enduring. We appreciate it to make your comments.
And
Not
for,
that we were enduring.
and for sharing your experiences.
Yes,
We
yes.
really love hearing from students,
Mhm.
and we appreciate you being here.
So next up is Abigail.
Hi, my name's Abby Kalmbach, and I live on Orchard Circle. I have 2 young children at Community Park. This evening, I come before you on behalf of multiple mothers in the district as well. And we want to express our concerns over the board's decision to end the formal contract with High Tops to provide the state mandated diversity, equity, and inclusion curriculum. While we applaud the work and effort already exerted to develop this curriculum in-house, we believe that the end result of bringing this curriculum in-house will make the teachings less effective and more susceptible to uneven implementation of the lessons for 3 reasons. First, the results of the students' climate survey presented at the June 11th meeting do not support the idea that pathways to racial literacy can effectively be taught in-house by teachers who have clearly not earned our students' trust to discuss these sensitive topics. Currently in our schools, according to the survey, our LGBTQ students are subject to slurs and microaggressions. Our transgender students are often being misgendered, often do not feel welcome in school, and often do not have adults they trust to go to. No wonder these kids are less likely to want to go to school than their peers and have higher suicide rates.
Mm-hmm.
This all points to a very troubling environment in our schools and needs to be addressed through extensive professional development for all adults in the school. These data do not suggest that pathways to racial literacy can effectively be taught in-house by teachers who have not yet created an inclusive environment for our students. Second, High Tops is an established organization that has developed effective curricula that are taught by educators that our students trust. Their educators are members or strong allies of the LGBTQ community. They are professionals with deep and extensive knowledge of the subject matter of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Just like you wouldn't ask a middle school science teacher to teach Shakespeare, we shouldn't be asking teachers to be teaching outside their subject area. Third, not renewing the High Tops contract sends a message, while perhaps not intended, that a vocal minority of adults in our community, many of whom did not send their children to Princeton Middle School, were able to remove a vital resource from our most vulnerable students and their peers. I appreciate the administrators and Board of Ed members who have tried to reassure me that not renewing the High Tops contract was in no way related to the Project Veritas video last year, or the strong pushback against High Tops that a vocal minority of our, I don't even want to say community members because they're speaking out against our community, made over many months, including protesting High Tops and racial literacy in front of our middle and high schools. However, it is hard to rectify the district stating that they want to strengthen racial literacy and LGBTQ inclusion with their severing a contract with a community organization providing such education. We can and should be doing better to support our diverse student body, so we applaud you for striving to create a more inclusive culture in our schools, starting with professional development of all teachers and staff, and urge you to utilize expert educational resources that are already trusted by our students, and reject any proposals to move this curriculum online. Thank you for your service. This is signed in support of, can I just say the names?
Yeah, because that's really annoying. No offense.
Laura.
Okay, wait, hold on. Okay. We're gonna give you.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, it's signed in support of Laura Coley, Ashley Bishkoff, Casey Wiggum, Hannah Newman, Marion Alberti, Melissa Greenberg, Holly, myself, and several others. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you. Thanks. Nina Peel? Mr. Timer, ready?
Hi, I'm Nina Peel. I live on Dempsey Avenue in Princeton. I also want to express my dismay that the district has cancelled the High Tops curriculum. This decision doesn't seem to be a decision that was made focused on equity or inclusion. The topics covered by this curriculum are important, and the teaching of them, especially at this moment, is urgent. Teaching of this material seems to have been pushed onto teachers, and while I'm sure they will do their best, the topics are pretty sensitive, and teachers' knowledge and of the subject matter and best practices in its delivery likely vary. Certainly, I doubt that individual teachers can match the decades of experience of High Top in developing curricula in these subject areas. I would ask the district to provide clarity on why the High Tops contract was cancelled and to give transparency in their plans moving forward beyond this school year. and to center equity and inclusion in making those decisions. I also asked that the district implement appropriate assessments to ensure that the moving of the teaching of this information in-house is meeting the appropriate standards that are mandated by the state now, and to have a plan in place for if it's not meeting these standards in the way that it should. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll just say that the decision had nothing to do with, people who didn't support the teaching of this curriculum in our schools. The teaching of the curriculum will continue. It's under Dr. Chu's stewardship, and we trust Dr. Chu to ensure that the standards are being met. I have no doubt the standards are being met and will continue to be met. And we believe that our teachers are the best qualified to teach the subject matter to our students. The decision was made with the best interest of students at the forefront, and we're committed to ensuring that the content is taught in the schools, not online, not at home, in school by people who are qualified to teach it and also know how to work with middle school children. So we appreciate you bringing your concerns to us, but we're committed to we're committed to diversity, equity, inclusion for everyone. So thank you. Is there anyone else for public comment? There's only 3 people left now. Well, four who haven't spoken. No, we'll get you next time. All right, so it's very late. We're gonna move quickly. Stop me if you need something. So we have I, harassment, intimidation, bullying, I1, harassment, intimidation, bullying, and I2, our school self-assessment, anti-bullying Bill of Rights. Then we're gonna move on to our board committee reports. And we are going to start with Debbie for the equity report.
Yes. So the Equity Committee met on September 9th, and Ms. Burge, the principal at the high school, shared PHS attendance data. Feeling welcome at PHS has increased, but we still have a lot of work to do. There's communication barriers, there's emotional barriers, cultural barriers. Some of this Dr. Foster talked about, but I'll just add to things they're doing. They're adding different supports, including kind of team-based support, which would be an assistant principal, nurses, tier 1 and tier 2, and a social worker, and working with students to see, what it is they need and why they aren't coming. Food insecurity is a big problem that we have, and so we're working on that to focus on these students. Our Tiger Cafe is open at 7:45 to 8:30 in the morning. There's snacks with the nurses. There's snacks with some staff that students can go to. We will be the high school will be doing another survey in December 2024 and have some more open-ended questions so that students can kind of share more about what's going on. But we know this is a big issue because we talked about it twice tonight, and we know these are students that need more support from us. Our next meeting is November 11th and at 6 p.m. in this room. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Next up is long-term planning with Beth Barrett.
Yep.
Hi,
Okay.
Beth. Welcome back.
Oh, thank you.
Nice to have
Good to
you.
be back. The committee met on September 19th and discussed the status of the preliminary project plans currently under review by the Department of Ed. The Department of Ed has exchanged minor clarifying comments with the architects. The PEC letters, which will specify how much state support will be available for each of the projects, are expected in the next few weeks. A ballot question or questions would need to be approved at latest at the November 19th board meeting for a January 28th, 2025 referendum. Portions of the projects, such as the CP parking, have been submitted separately to the DOE, giving the board flexibility to choose to place less than all of the projects on a referendum ballot without having to go back for additional state approvals. Legal counsel will advise the committee on the options for splitting a question at the next meeting so that a recommendation can be made to the full board. The administration is actively seeking a PSE&G subsidy for the $16.4 million HVAC projects proposed to replace the end-of-life systems at PHS. We were very excited to hear that. The PSE&G could possibly pay for up to 75% of this cost. The district should know whether this funding is available early next year, possibly before the referendum vote. Should approval come after a successful vote, these funds would be returned to taxpayers through an early bond repayment. So the committee, so that's 16.4 of the total.
Wow,
which is
of the 17.
of the 80.
No, but how much is the HVAC?
It's 16.4.
Wow.
So
all of it.
75% of that potentially.
12.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
12%, 75%.
Which we thought that was an exciting thing to share. We also discussed communication and how best to provide the public with information in the weeks ahead, and we're working hard on that with the administration. The next meeting is October 17th and will be closed. As a postscript, the Princeton Planning Board conducted a courtesy review of the preliminary project plans at a meeting on September 19th, and will be submitting comments to the DOE. The DOE then takes those into consideration, and then when it comes back to us, that's all incorporated. The district architects explained to the planning board that certain elements of the plans, particularly those that do not relate to classroom spaces, which are the focus of the DOE review, such as parking and landscaping, have been included as placeholders and remain subject to further refinement with public input, as efforts have been made to minimize expense prior to a successful referendum. We don't want to spend any money we don't have to before we're sure that they will pass. District leadership and architects attended the meeting and will take planning board comments into consideration as plans continue to evolve.
Thanks, Beth. And we also have a page on the website for the referendum
Yes.
as well, right?
Yes, it's on the website
Also district.
on the top.
District, I think.
The district
Right next to
website?
the superintendent button. It's under district, and it's
Oh,
on the
so-
front page.
On the front page of the website. You
Yeah,
can find
okay,
information on the projects, and we continue to populate it with more information as we have time to develop that. We were focused on the summer projects first and then back to school, and now we'll focus on that information.
Okay, and so you're meeting with the attorney to discuss possibly, so there's a big pot, $85 million of 88 million of work that has to be done.
Mhm.
And so there's options of putting that out to the community. We could put it all out as one question,
Right?
right? Or we could split it up, and you're going to talk with the attorney to discuss how that's going to be split.
Yeah, you can do one question, you can do two questions, you can do three questions. They
Yeah.
can relate to each other in different ways.
Yep.
So we're going to find out what the options are, and then we'll make some recommendations to the board.
Yeah, the trick with PSE&G is that the question will be written and printed on the ballot before we have the answer to that. So we can't go with a lower number. We have to be at whatever that 85 plus number is. And talking about that will be interesting in the months to come.
Yeah, that'll be very interesting.
And especially since we won't know.
Right. But people will know, though. Interesting. So people might know when it's time to vote.
They might.
Right.
They might.
They might be voting
Before, right. And even if we got the grant, we couldn't tell them how to vote anyway.
No.
So
we never can tell them how to vote.
No, yeah, right. But
we,
even
we can inform them
yes,
about the grant and the impact if it comes.
Yes.
Because effectively, if you got additional monies from PSE&G subsequent to your issuing of the bond, you
Yeah.
would pay a portion of the bond down, and so the per household cost would come down.
Huh.
Right?
Interesting.
You'd have less to pay back. It'd be gone.
And can I just ask a hypothetical question? So if we put that on the referendum and it doesn't pass, it doesn't matter if PSE&G gives us the money, right? No, no, right. But I'm saying if let's say we put that on the referendum, it doesn't pass. In the meantime, so the voters aren't voting necessarily on whether to do the project; they're voting on the funding. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So, yes.
Yeah.
And so you could choose to do that project separately if you had funding in the operating budget. But that would
Or
be-
PSE&G gave us the
well,
money.
but you'd still need $4 million
75, right,
of
right.
school
That's
funds
a good
to,
point.
if it's a $16 million project.
And if it didn't pass, you could go back a second time
for
and
the-
modify it
yeah.
if you chose to.
But you may not have the PSE&G funding at that point.
Oh wow, this is
very complicated.
I mean, it's very exciting.
But we were happy to hear that that was an option, even
Yeah,
a possibility.
That's great. So you'll have a recommendation for us at the October meeting, which is October 29th. Is that right?
Possibly October 9th
No?
or November.
No?
I think it's going to
November?
be November. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
We
so
have to
you're
get the
gonna take your
PEC.
time and
We need
think
the
about
PEC
it.
letters. back from the state.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And the PEC letters are, I know they're the financing letters, but what do they stand for? For people?
Preliminary eligible cost letters.
So
Great.
they're the letters. They literally look at the spaces we're proposing and they look at the enrollments and they say, is there adequate, appropriate space for the children? Which is why they don't look so much at the parking lots and the landscaping.
And those letters will say what proportion the state will be funding?
Yeah, they give us back the state debt aid percentage.
Okay, so we have exciting things coming up. All right, thank you. Okay, lost my spot. Oh, operations with Susan Cantor. Hi, Susan.
Hi, the favorite committee report every time. We met on September 11th at 8 a.m. It's open to the public. We had a very long and detailed meeting because we got an update on all the summer projects that really, we've outlined some of them. I'll mention some of the bigger ones, but more projects than have ever been done based upon our last referendum that'll totally, help the district for decades to come. So some of those include finishing roofs at JP and Riverside, HVAC replacement at 3 elementary schools, the high school cafeteria, which is one of our favorites. Hopefully the students are really enjoying the cafeteria with our new food services. We're doing safety measures like door replacements in the high school and the middle school, a PHS security vestibule project, 10 gig upgrades at all the schools, pool lighting, security cameras. So those were just some of the projects that we received detailed report on, either that they were complete or near completion. And we also discussed future projects, which will be the playgrounds at five of our schools, the 4 elementary schools and the middle school. Some of that work will be started in the fall and will continue through next summer. We have some detention basin work at the high school, and that we're scoping out the PHS track and field, which will be refurbished next summer. We also, as we always do, discuss sustainability, and we received updates from Sustainable Princeton, Jenny Ludmer, on energy efficiency awareness campaign, so the schools and the students and teachers can help us save energy, and how she's working with the district to do an energy analysis. We always discuss if we're able to finally get a grant for electric buses. That's always like a dream of ours. And then Krista, who has been working on a webpage so that we can do outreach and share this work with the community. Our next meeting will be October 16th at 8 a.m. And we welcome everyone to Zoom in and join us. They're always a lot of fun.
I just had one note. It wasn't just the number of projects, but the number of contractors who were here over the summer, about 10 of them. And a lot of credit goes to Matt, to Dave Harding, and to our construction managers at New Roads who managed to coordinate all of it. And we had a normal opening of school. Some projects are still being done, but the staff and the team really deserves high praise.
Thank you, Matt.
It's not me. It's a lot of people involved. So
Yeah, but you're overseeing it. We appreciate it. And
we're still ongoing. So we're trying to wrap things up.
we appreciate it. And it does.
Thank
It looks
you.
great. Yeah. Next up is personnel. Deb, Mara.
The Personnel Committee met on September 19th. We discussed a new job description for the Director of Student Services, which we're going to be voting on tonight. We discussed the timeline that'll be used for interviewing candidates for the Director of Student Services. We reviewed a draft policy for the extended leave of absence. We reviewed special education aides in all our schools. And we discussed a pianist to support the pianist choral classes, and we're going to be voting on that tonight as well. We discussed a position stipend of a nurse coordinator. We're going to vote on that also tonight, and other personnel issues. And we're closed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is policy with Beth.
It's me again.
Hi.
Hi. Policy met on September 19th, and we discussed the policies that are on for first read tonight, basically conforming some of our existing policies to practice. Also, there was a service animal one proposed, but we're going to look at that later because it dealt with miniature horses, and we wanted to have a bit more time with that language. I had to say that.
We can bring miniature.
Not yet. It's not, we don't have a policy.
What about llamas?
We get policies from a policy service and we read them, and sometimes they're really appropriate and sometimes they have things that are interesting.
You know what made me think of the llamas? Last time we did the referendum, we surveyed kids about what they wanted to see.
Yes.
And they wanted llamas.
They did want llamas.
So anyway.
We don't have those.
I think everyone should know that the line about miniature horses in the policy said, if I remember correctly, ponies and full-size horses are not considered miniature horses.
Our policy meetings are generally very dry, but we did appreciate the miniature horse language.
And we're going to sign that. You'll be the one that.
We'll be bringing that back. That's not on yet. Okay.
Or a therapy dog, or therapy animal.
But I did want to bring the board's. I'd like to bring the board's attention to the AI plan that is AI plan that corresponds to the AI policy. We put it back for first read because we want everyone to have the opportunity to have a look at it. It has some of the substance of what we're going to be doing. And we appreciate Kim's and her team's efforts to kind of keep up with this as it continues to evolve so quickly. We will keep updating the policies and plans as we go.
And can I just add one thing?
Yes.
Beth? I'm sorry to interrupt. One of the things we have PREA Executive Council on Thursday, so I shared it with the presidents because I also want to make sure that they're looking at it and then once we go to adoption of that next month, rolling that out with staff.
Right.
And then we'll be rolling out the policy with staff starting tomorrow after approval.
It impacts every one of our classrooms,
exactly.
so we take it quite
And
seriously.
how's it going to be provided to the kids? Through the teachers?
Yeah, so we're doing professional development with the teachers who will then explain it to the kids. But I don't know, I don't want to put them on the spot, but I think probably in some classrooms they're talking about acceptable use and what's allowed and what's not allowed with AI. Yeah.
It's a lot to educate everyone on, but it's super important that it's understood.
And this is hot off the presses. It looks like a tentative date for December 3rd. We're going to partner with Common Sense Media. We have one of our parents in the district, Carla, who's helping with us and talking with parents about AI.
That's great.
And then we'll talk about PPS and AI. So we originally were going to do it in October, but working with Todd McDonald, our CTO, he was like, maybe it's good to have a little bit of time with the platform and time of students and teachers using it so then we can speak more expert on AI about this in December. So it will be a webinar so that people can join remotely and we'll record it.
That's great.
As well.
Oh, that's great.
So
Thank you.
we'll keep reporting, I think, as this evolves because there's a lot to do there. We have a number of policies on second read. We don't have anything that's really changed with those. And we did add to our parking lot where we kind of put issues that are coming up that we know need to be discussed, the issues of cell phone usage. So we're keeping an eye on that and that will evolve and eventually we'll decide whether we bring something forward or not. And our next meeting is October 16th.
Thank you, Beth. Maya Nikolai, if I put you on the spot, what do you think about a cell phone ban in schools? Not that we're doing it. I just want to know what you think about it.
Are you talking about for every period?
Yes. You. Like,
just
so you know, three states.
That was good.
Yeah.
Every period or one period?
For math, they already make sure that all our phones are in the red. I forget what it's called, like the red sleeves.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering if you wanted to do it for every single class and do you want to keep that same thing with the red sleeves?
Well, so 3 states, California, Indiana, and Florida have banned cell phones from schools, right? So that's like, I think the most, rigorous policy that we've seen. And then it could go down and keeping it in a pouch when you're in class or just not being allowed to use it in the school. So just how much do you depend on your phones during the day? And how do you think the student body would take it if we took their phones away?
Yeah, I think in a lot of the classes that I've been in this year, I think 6 out of 8, they're taking our phones away at the start of class.
Okay.
We put them in sleeves. I know in gym, we put them in our backpacks, and if you have them, you shouldn't have them. So, I think that's a great thing because I know especially last year I saw it just every second kids would be on their phones, and me too. I ended up switching to a flip phone halfway through the year, and I still use that most of the time. But I think a complete ban would get a lot of student backlash. I think many of my friends would not.
Yeah, I agree. I think at least for me, like most of my classes are senior only or like juniors and seniors only, and for a lot of them, like they trust the students not to use them much. Not that they don't use them, I think, but I think at least when you're talking about like the upperclassmen, I think there needs to be like a certain level of trust where like the teachers and like the supervisors, like I think when you talk about taking phones away entirely, I think you're taking away like I think as the students see it, like as they taking away like part of like them. And I think for me at least, like I have my phone blocked personally. Like I have like a little app and it blocks like all my social media for the entire day until 8 p.m. So that's what I do personally.
That's very, both of you are very impressive.
But I think I agree with Nicola though. I think there's gonna be a lot of backlash if you did just ban them entirely.
Yeah.
But I do think for certain classes it's helpful, like for English and math especially, I think it would be helpful to just put them away. Because even when they're in your bags, like you can still see them.
Yeah.
I think when you're like when you can like when it's like right next to you, you can like just unconsciously reach for it. So I think in like certain core classes, it would definitely be very beneficial.
If I could just add one thought, I think the sleeves work really well. I know in choir, like our teacher will use them to take attendance. And so you have to put your phone there to be marked present, which I know we're also cracking down on attendance. So that kind of works together. And functionally, I think it works just like a phone ban because you don't have it to distract you. But of course, the argument people always go to is in case of emergency, then how do you contact people? And still having them within reach might be good.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, we appreciate it. All right, and last but not least, Betsy with the student achievement update.
Thank you very much. We met on September 13th, which was Kim's birthday. So I just want to thank Kim for all of her work this evening. We got to see the team you put together and the amazing impact it's having on student learning. But we really appreciate you and that you met with us on your birthday. So
For 3 hours.
Right, for a long time. We teased her that we would do an in-person meeting. We did stay on Zoom, but we were happy to be there. Bethany Sadiq came to our meeting to talk about the MSAN trip that is on our agenda for approval this evening, and we were really excited to hear about that. We look forward to hearing from the students after the trip. It's in Michigan this year. We also saw the presentation you all got to see tonight, the matriculation report with Naparna Shaw and John McMichael. And we just thank them again for all of their work with our students. Dr. Andrea Dinan came to our meeting to talk about service learning and the community service program at PHS, gave us some updates on the program and how that's running. Mickey Crisafulli arrived at the meeting to talk about the new interventionist who's taking over for Lauren Samara this year. We got to meet her. We welcomed her to the district. And then finally, also, we talked about AI. I think a lot of us will speak about AI in a lot of different committees. Todd McDonald and Kim Tu shared information about School AI, which is a new program that will be in use by teachers, and also some guidelines for that use. And then we adjourned into closed session. We are meeting again on October 11th on Zoom at 11 o'clock.
All right, thank you, Betsy. And happy birthday again, Kim.
Thank you.
We know.
And it was also Dr. Foster's birthday last week as well. So
Yes.
happy birthday to you.
Yes, happy birthday. Thank you for spending it with us. All right. So moving on now, K1, first policies for first reading, K2 policies for second reading. L1 resignations, L2 retirement, and as has been said today, our Director of Student Services, Mickey Crisafulli, is retiring from the district. She's been here 13 and a half years, but she spent 43 years in education, serving as a special education teacher, learning consultant, and as a supervisor for special education before coming to Princeton. So Mickey has been the leader for special education across the district. She has developed full child study teams at every building, expanding staffing and programs to support student services, and has bridged connections with resources around the state to support our community. And I think we also saw Mickey in action as our chief medical officer during the pandemic. Mickey really relished that role. I think we all saw her rise to that occasion, providing hot off the press guidance to our schools that was in alignment with federal, state, and local regulations. She brought vaccination clinics to our community in our schools here, secured PPE for our staff and students, and provided support at every level to ensure a safe learning environment. We are going to miss Mickey, and we wish her all the best and a long and healthy retirement. And thank you for your service to our schools.
I'm not going to repeat because, you talked a lot about her career, but I just want to highlight a couple of things. All of us who work at Valley Road, I just want to let you know that she is always at least the first in the parking lot when we're probably, our alarm is just going off at home. And she is here all hours. So that's one thing. And then I'll think, she will definitely be missed. But another fun fact of hers is she loves to bake. And for every child study team meeting, she would make her famous morning glory muffins. So I know those will be missed as well. But we really wish her well to spend more time with her two grandchildren, Hunter and Ryder, work in her garden, travel. And she loves to go to the gym, so she can go to the gym after 8 a.m. in the morning. So we're grateful for her service and wish her continued joy in her retirement.
Thank you, Dr. Foster. All right, moving on. L3 appointments. Just stop me if you want to talk about anything. L4 transfer reassignment. L5 personnel items. L6 leave of absence. L7 student placement, substitute student placement. L8 PRIA extra period compensation. L9 non-athletic EPES. L10 curriculum and instruction. L11 student services. L12 PRESA Schedule C stipend appointments. And L13 is that job description that Mara mentioned. Moving on, curriculum and instruction. M1, the MSAN student conference.
Just real quick on that, I wasn't sure if anyone wanted that to be action. It is action, but
The MSAN?
if no one wanted it to be action, sometimes people just
Yeah.
don't, and I didn't notice it. So
Yep, got it.
everyone's good with it being consent. Great,
All right,
thank you.
sounds good. M2, educational consultant services. M3, academic placement appeal.
That's an action item.
Is that an action item? Can I get a motion? Debbie, second. Beth?
Daphne Kendall,
Yes.
Betsy Baglio,
Yes.
Beth Barron,
Yes.
Adam Bierman,
Yes.
Debbie Bronfeld,
Yes.
Mara Franceschi,
Yes.
Eleanor Hubbard,
Abstain.
Susan Cantor,
Yes.
Brian McDonald,
Yes.
Rob Christopher.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Bolden. M4 is language and cultural exchange programs. Then we're moving on to student services, and 1 is professional consulting services, 24-25, and 2 is educational placement of pupils, 24-25, and then N3 is educational placement of pupils, 24-25 Mercer County Technical School. We move on to business, 01 financial reports, 02 fire and evacuation drills, and 03 registration travel agenda. And that concludes the board's business. So moving on now, I think. No, we're going to public comment, but I'm just trying to set an example for brevity.
Can I add something very quick to my report?
Yeah.
I just realized I didn't say the name of the new interventionist is Allison Pankowski, and we just want to welcome her to the district. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? Oh, okay, so I'm going to do public comment. Again, anyone who would like to, okay, wait. Come up, say your name, the street you live on, and you can speak for 3 minutes, and we're working on our timer. We want to be
I don't
friendly.
need the timer.
We want to be friendly people to speak to.
Jessica Vieira, Stockton Street. I just wanted to say this is a board meeting that I could watch over and over on replay because it was amazing, and it shows the commitment of the district to investing in number 1, stability, and number 2, investing in programs that really are proven to work. I think it's amazing. Kudos to everybody in this room and everyone, within that's had a hand in all of it. I wanted to ask specifically, I think that Pomptonian has come online. I was part of the process to get them engaged with the district. And I think that the feedback, at least that my kids have from the high school, is that it's going really well. I can only imagine if we could feed every single child what our test scores would be. So I can't stress enough just getting those kids to eat and eat well, and how we can figure out how to make that happen. And again, thanks again for everything. It was really an amazing meeting, and we appreciate, I know I speak for all the parents, that we appreciate all the hard work and dedication. So thanks.
Thanks, Jess. All right, Mr. Bierman, are you speaking as a board member or?
As a board member.
As a board member, okay.
I just want to say, concerning the superintendent search, I just want to quote George Santayana, those who know him. Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. It is essential to reflect on the past and lessons learned. But there is change. Life isn't static. It's especially critical that we also focus on the present and channel our energies constructively. So far, in my opinion, speaking of the BO Research Committee, has greatly impressed me with their clear objectives, established metrics, and clarity of purpose, and a lot of hard work. Very impressive. I mean, putting a lot of time in. And I just promise that I'll, if anyone asks me about, I'm going to make sure in my own personal capacity as a board member to make sure things are as transparent as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Sue? Sue, can I just congratulate you? Your daughter got married this weekend. Congratulations. And here you are.
And here I am.
Yeah.
Where else would I be on a Tuesday night?
Exactly. But congratulations.
Thank you. Sue Evans, Worth Mill Lane. Really quick, as you start to look at the cell phone ban, I just want to request or cell phone
usage.
Cell phone usage.
Yes. Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
want to request that when you start using things like the words like cell phone ban, that triggers
Oh,
in
sorry.
kids.
Well, I just asked what they thought.
Right. But that triggers in kids that you don't allow them at all in the building. And that really just gets their backs up. And I know certain
Yeah, it was a
teachers
poor choice of
say
words.
that they don't allow them.
Uh-huh.
And that really just triggers. So the word usage is just
Well, the reason-
super important. And I know that they say that they ban them in these states, but they actually, it gets really tricky.
Well, so we have actually heard from some parents, right? I think we were at the PTO meeting.
Yep,
right?
exactly,
So,
exactly.
So that is one side of the coin, right? That's one part of the spectrum, right? So I guess I was hoping they would say what they said, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we want them to say. But, for safety and for a variety of reasons, they do need them.
Right.
But they don't. So we don't ban them into the school. We ban their usage
Right.
in school. So it's
Right.
just, again, it's semantics. But
Yes, I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Thank
that is
you.
all. All right. Thanks. And again, echoing what Jess said, wow. Just wow what is going on. Thank you so much.
It's all them.
No, it's all of you. It's all of you.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Sue. I'm sorry if I sent like chills down your spine. Not my intent. Yeah.
I do sports every season, and like we can't use our phones at all. Like I do cheer right now for 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours every day, and we're not allowed our phones at all. And like it's been fine. Like if you really need to contact the coaches. Like I think personally, like it will be fine, especially if it's just for like one period of time.
Can I ask a question? I mean, we're going on and on. But what year were you born?
No.
So you've lived with technology your whole life from day one. So,
But you're very disciplined. I don't know you well, but you're very impressive. Maybe you could, both of you, the flip phone, maybe you could come teach me something.
I know, really, a flip phone. I haven't heard that term in a long time. Oh my God.
Where did you even get that?
It was in Arkansas at an AT&T store.
Oh, that's awesome.
They're actually off the range. They're coming back.
Yeah.
I know, I heard that.
Oh.
You didn't get the really big digits, though, did you?
Yeah, no, it did. It takes forever to type.
I think Matt might have one.
I'm getting one.
Yeah. All right. Is there anyone else for public comment? No, there isn't. I just want to thank everyone it was a long meeting, but there's a lot of work going on in the district, and under your leadership, Dr. Foster, we're very grateful, and Dr. Tu. Yeah, it's been great. So thank you. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
No, it's a good consent vote.
It's getting late.
We'd have to do it all over again,
Sorry.
like Groundhog Day.
Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda? Beth, second. Mara. It's past my bedtime. I missed the Mets game.
Yeah, There's nothing I missed.
No, I know, I saw.
Daphne Kendall.
Yes.
Betsy Baglio.
Yes.
Beth Barron.
Yes.
Adam Bierman.
Yes.
Debbie Ronfeld.
Yes.
Mara Franceschi.
Yes.
Eleanor Hubbard.
Yes.
Susan Cantor.
Yes.
Brian McDonald.
Yes.
Rob Christopher.
Yes.
Consent agenda passes.
Thank you, Mr. Bolden. And can I get a motion to adjourn? Beth, second. Betsy, all in favor. Good night. Good night. Thank you.